Hey everybody, today we're debating Christian ethics versus secular ethics. What is best for society? And we are starting right now with Dr. Zuckerman's opening statement. Dr. Phil Zuckerman is a sociologist and professor recognized for his research on secularism, atheism, and how non-religious people find meaning and community. Thanks for being with us. The floor is all yours, Dr. Phil Zuckerman.
Wow. Okay. Thanks for having me. And hope you don't mind the corncob pipe as my talisman here. Um, and I don't know Andrew, but I know that the more kind of cantankerous and vicious these debates get, maybe the more clicks they get. But I'm going to try my hardest not to be nasty. And really actually try to engage and understand what you're saying and try to do a good job of finding out where we disagree and why. But so I look forward to this, and thanks for sitting down. I guess for me, I think what's important, when we talk about Christianity or secularism or secular ethics and Christian ethics, these can mean so many different things to so many different people. They're easily strawmanned. We can always find the worst examples of each tradition or each perspective or orientation. I hope we'll try to find the best in each other. But so this is what I mean by these things, and then we can proceed. Like when I think of Christianity, because there's so many versions of Christianity. There's cultural Christianity. You can talk about Christians in a sociological sense, a cultural sense, a theological sense. So what I mean by Christian is I believe it has these components. It's a worldview that believes in a powerful or magical, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but like not bound by any limits of the physical realm, a deity who also seems to exist alongside or allows for the existence of a Satan or a satanic being that torments the world. And I don't know why this God allows him to do that, but somehow they both are out there. There seems to be the belief that this deity had a son who's also himself, who allowed himself, based on a prophecy, to die. And somehow that death and the blood actually of that death saves everyone else from eternal torment in hell if they sort of mentally or internally accept him as their savior. And again, I'm saying this as straightforward as I can. I don't mean to characterize this in a comical way. I hope that's not how it's coming across. Seems to be a Christian, you need to believe in a heaven and hell, however you define that, but there are definitions that you can work with. A big belief that prayer is an effective mechanism or method by which to change circumstances, change our own personal lives, change the world, and that the Bible is true, either word for word or implied or metaphor. I don't know. There's different. I've heard different versions. Like it's unerrant. I don't know. But the Bible is somehow this kind of unlike any other thing ever written. It's God's word, or it's inspired by God's word. So that's what I think I mean by Christian. And then what do I mean by secular ethics or secularism? So I would say ethics based on empathy and compassion with no appeal to anything supernatural. We simply appeal to our own experiences and the experiences of others in this world, in this life. It's a naturalistic worldview that bases its claims on evidence and reason, and those claims are always subject to change based on new evidence and new reason or more improved thinking. We're very skeptical towards claims of the supernatural. So any ethic or any principle or rule that is based on knowledge. So there are some things we don't know, and those things we have to just humbly say we don't know. Time, space, how it all began, why we're here. I don't know if we'll ever know the answers to that, but I do know what it feels like to be hungry, and I can work from there. Obviously, politically, a separation of church and state, that the government should take a neutral stance. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Beautiful, beautiful articulation of Jeffersonian, respects religion. Government shouldn't be in the business of putting it down or criminalizing it or stopping it out, but also government shouldn't be in the business of promoting it or establishing it. Everybody wins in that situation, rather than if some version of Christianity becomes the state religion, that's going to get ugly very quick for Christians as well. And ultimately, only we can save ourselves. So we are flawed animals, but we also have potential for good. And it's that potential for good which we have to rely on. And that's where we're at. So what I would argue, those are my definitions. I don't know how much time I have left. So what I would argue is when we're talking about societies, I'm a sociologist. So how do you measure how a society is faring? And who's to say which is a better society or a worse society? Many societies, for example, are not literate. They're oral societies. Are they better or worse than societies that engage in reading and writing? I could make a strong case that I think reading and writing is a better type of society than one that lacks it, but that's subjective, right? If I came from an oral culture, I would find that oral cultures are superior to literate cultures. So who can say, and we'll debate this, but on standard measures of what I would call societal well-being, so what I mean by that is, what do I mean by standard measures? Well, I guess most of us agree that life is preferable to death. So life expectancy, infant mortality rates. Most of us don't like to be the victims of violent crime, so violent crime rates, access to health care, ratio of patient to nurses in a given hospital, access to doctors. Most of us like to have housing. It's no fun to sleep out in the cold, although I guess it could be for some people. But how do people have access to housing and air conditioning and heat? Do people have access to education? Do people have access to elder care? When someone has a stroke, what kind of care are they able to get or afford or access? These are the kind of things. Are men and women, do they have equal rights in terms of pursuing politics, business, law, owning land, managing their own affairs? Are children protected by laws that keep them from being abused, beaten, or exploited at work? In other words, we could make a list that probably Andrew and I would agree on almost everything. I can think of some things we probably would disagree on, like abortion, or maybe environmental stuff. But I would say the bulk of it having to do with human well-being and alleviating unwanted suffering. When we look at what societies have managed on those fronts, what I would argue is that the most, and these are based on rankings that I don't compile, but other, you can look at, corruption indexes, you can look at human development indexes. I mean, there's a lot of organizations out there, partisan and nonpartisan, that try to chart this information and rank nations. And what you'll find is that most of those nations, not all, most of those nations are post-Christian belief. They tend to be majority cultural Christian, places like Scandinavia, but the vast majority of the population there have dropped the supernatural beliefs that are part and parcel of the Christian worldview. And I don't think that's an accident. And it's not just post-Christian nations, though. It's also post-Buddhist and Shinto societies like Japan or South Korea. In other words, the societies that seem to be faring the best today with the healthiest democracies and whatnot, seem to not rely on supernatural Christian beliefs, but rather have moved on to more secular ethics. And those are the things that spurred them to create universal health care, women's rights, public education, like all the things that even democracy itself is a secular ethic. You won't find democracy articulated by Jesus, by Muhammad, by Moses. There's no articulation of government by the consent of the governed until we get to the Enlightenment philosophers who specifically articulate that principle and put it into practice with secular mechanisms. So, James, how am I doing on time? I don't even know. Okay, so what I would argue is I want to be clear here to everybody's watching. I'm not saying the societies that are faring the best right now are doing so solely because of secularism. Not at all. In fact, I could argue that secularism and their diminishing of religion came after they improved their societies and addressed all these societal ills. But I can be sure of is they addressed those societal ills not. They didn't solve them through prayer or anything magical or appealing to a God. They solved them with their own minds and hands and hearts, and they implemented adequate health care, public education, good elder care, all these things through secular means based on secular ethics, more or less. And that's my opening attempt. We'll see where things go. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for that opening. And we're going to kick it over to Andrew for his opening as well. But first, want to mention DebateCon 8 has launched. You can see at the bottom right of your screen, DebateCon 8 is going to be in Dallas, Texas this Saturday, July 25th and Sunday, July 26th. I am putting that link for tickets in the live chat right now. Check out that link as it's going to be amazing. We currently have most of the debates booked. There are a couple that are still being worked out, and they are going to be massive. We're working on making this our best conference yet. Check out DebateCon 8 at that link pinned at the top of the chat and in the description box. With that, we're going to kick it over to Andrew Wilson, who is a live streamer and online commentator known for debating cultural, political, and social issues. Thanks for being with us as well. Andrew, the floor is all yours.
I appreciate that. Can you guys hear me okay? Perfect. So I don't get to debate with secular humanists as often as I'd like, but it is always amusing for me to do so, especially the particular type I am debating today. Secular humanism is a moronic, self-refuting ideology. Its entire goal is to spare human society from unprovable dogma around higher forms of authority and beings, yet only offers unprovable dogma on higher forms of authority and being. They'll say, look at you, you stupid Christian and your sky daddy, to which I just point out, okay, and you stupid atheist secular humanist and your appeal to my rights daddy. My opponent's entire ideology focuses on the fact that God isn't provable and is untestable and therefore should be rejected. Instead, we should focus on rights, which are unprovable and untestable, and it's ironically just as dogmatic in every conceivable way. Secular humanist dogma includes humans should flourish, that they have rights, that they're all equal, that they deserve a democracy and equal say, and that they should have a representative government. Human rights should be equally given. The list of dogma in their manifestos, Secular Humanism 3 or the Amsterdam Doctrine, are overwhelming. It's really just asking you to reject one religion for another religion. It has its own dogma and its own priors, which secular humanists just grant to themselves as being things that ought to be. When reduced, secular humanism is just force. Do what we say or else. No, says a secular humanist. That's not the case at all. Of course it is. You don't want to serve minorities? Force. Don't want to hire women? Force. Don't want to pay taxes? Force. Don't want to follow their codes of conduct? Force. Don't like their laws? Force. They back up everything with use of force, which aligns with their dogma, and say those Christians over there, you better be careful because they'll use force to back up their dogma. It's actually hilarious. Amazing argument I hear often from my opponents in secular humanism is, well, in a secular nation, you can be a Christian. I've actually heard my opponent say this in multiple of his debates. That's nice. And in a Christian country, you can be a secularist. So what have we established here? So what? What's my proof? Well, sir, you gave it yourself. You said most of this country identifies as being Christian, and yet you're sitting here an avowed atheist. So where's all the persecution at, dude? Nowhere. Nowhere. Now, my opponent will say his view is backed with empirical evidence and that we should use science and empiricism as our basis for rational decisions, which he did, yet can't demonstrate through science or empiricism why we should do that. Because neither thing is designed to make ought claims, which means he's appealing to some other non-material concept. Dignity, rights, vibes, feelings, stuff. Who knows? I don't know what he's appealing to. Who knows? Whatever it is, it's his non-materialist based sky daddy, his God. If I can't taste it, sir, smell it, sir, hear it, feel it, see it, or test it, or have any evidence for it, it isn't even real from your view. Yet, you say that we should have rights anyway, whatever those are, and wherever these invisible things you say are rights, which are real, but can't use any of your methodologies that you just gave us to demonstrate that they're real. The list keeps going. How about this dogma of equality? Boy, that flies in the face of all evidence available to us, doesn't it? Every objective thing we can possibly use shows the exact opposite for this. No, people don't have equal value. No, they don't have equal traits. No, they aren't equal at all in strength or IQ or talent or skills or any of the innumerable amounts of traits that we can name, so on and so forth. And yet somehow the secular humanist gets to this, and this is from the agreed upon secular humanist doctrine, which you can find in the latest manifesto, and you can find it in the Amsterdam Doctrine. Human dignity and worth. Every person has intrinsic value, which forms the basis for advocating for equal rights regardless of background, gender, or belief. That's obviously not the case. Observably, it's not the case, and in any form of testing, it isn't the case. So how do we test for intrinsic value again? We don't, right? It's a spiritual concept. You can't. And that's assigning immediately a value to a thing or being just because it exists. How the hell would he test for this? How would you test for the intrinsic value of a human being? You can't. It's all dogma. So they say the same thing. Well, but we can see the effects. And, that's what matters. And that's what he said, right? It's the effects. Which, by the way, this is the entire Christian argument. Yeah, we can see the effects clearly of what Christianity brings. Human dignity, universal morality, outlaws incest, outlaws polygamy, encourages reproduction, outlaws prostitution, frowns on promiscuity, bans abortion as birth control, gives a sense of community, which assists marriages from falling apart, increases happiness, increases satisfaction in life, lowers negative mental health outcomes, distinguishes clearly between sexes, refuses to lie about the interchangeability of sexes, refuses to grant equality except ontologically, but recognizes differences between people. It increases charitability, gives more loving environment, gives us an evolutionary advantage of an ought for reproduction. It literally does everything that you could ever want for human flourishing. His worldview needs mine to assign these dogmas, but mine doesn't need his. That's the problem with secular humanism. It isn't secular at all. It's a highly religious doctrine and dogma, and it LARPs as being non-religious when its tenets are completely religious and ultimately completely dogmatic. And with that, I'll yield my time, and I'd like to just kind of dive right into the debate.
All right, with that, we'll jump into the open dialogue. Following that will be Q&A. The floor is all yours, gentlemen.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll give you plenty of opportunity to internally critique my position. I think that that's totally fair. But if you don't mind, I have a few questions for you. Do you believe that human beings have intrinsic value?
Hold on one second, Andrew.
Okay.
I thought this was going to be a good faith debate,
This is good faith.
and I don't know you. Forgive me. I haven't ever seen you before. I'm not a follower. I'm not on social media. So forgive me if I thought this was going to be a debate where your opening sentence would call me a moron.
I didn't call you any names.
Dude,
I didn't call you my opening statement said
opening line was moronic. Are you going to
No. Hang on, I'll read it for you verbatim. I didn't call you any names, sir. I would not do that. I said secular humanism is a moronic ideology. Not that you're a moron, sir.
Andrew, okay, whatever. What's your question? All I'm going to say is I did not find your opening statement at all in good faith.
What was bad faith
I felt
about it?
like you spoke for me, so you looked stuff up and said that I believe this.
I
and
use your
assert
words from
that,
other
and I
debates.
assert this.
So you did say those things. That's what I'm sourcing.
Well, I'm talking to you right now.
So I should forget about your debate last week, or?
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay. I'll forget about everything you've ever said from every time you've advocated for this position to right now. Then, okay.
Andrew, what I'm saying to you is, I entered this conversation. I didn't go back and read all the crazy things or great things you've said, and I thought you and I.
That sounds like a lack of preparation on your part, sir. It has no bearing on anything. I prepare for my debate opponents.
So you want to just debate what I said to someone else a year ago?
No, I'm debating your position now on secular humanism as you just outlined it.
I do want to jump in just because
I think this guy. Yeah,
I do want to jump in really quick. To be fair, Dr. Zuckerman, is that I don't think it's unreasonable that he read your past work to engage with it during the debate. He was preparing for the debate. If you want to recant, like if you want to say like I no longer believe that, then he can say, "Oh, now you've updated it. Okay, it's off the table." But I don't understand why it's
I didn't say anything bad faith. I went over
talk about
what secular humanism is. I'm very familiar with the doctrine.
All right.
I don't know.
All I can say is that when I look at the state of our country right now, the hostility, the violence, you're seething with it, and I can see why. I did not get the feeling from the beginning of your statement that you are here to have an exchange of ideas. I got the feeling.
I'm sorry about your emotional state. Can we debate the issue now?
I just want to hear him out. Go ahead.
It's okay. I mean,
I would like to debate the issue. I don't know why we're having a meta conversation about the debate. We're here to have a debate. Let's
So-
have the debate.
what's your,
Yeah. Do you believe that human beings have intrinsic value?
I'm not gonna, I can't, I would say that to me, that seems reasonable, but it's not something that I could necessarily prove.
So you're not sure if human beings have intrinsic value?
Okay, so to me, I feel like you're setting me up in a chess game here. What I would say to you is, I would
It's
like
your
to think-
position, dude. How can I
No,
be
it's
setting you
not.
up? How can I
No,
be
I've
setting
never
you up
said
by
that.
asking you a question about
I've
your
never
position?
said that. I believe all humans.
I'm asking you about the
Yeah,
position.
I'm saying it depends. Do I think a Nazi who is rounding up Jews and kicking them in the face as they go into a gas chamber has the same human dignity as
I'm not
doctor?
asking about dignity.
You said, do I think all humans?
Have intrinsic value.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not
Okay.
if they're causing harm and they're doing horrible things.
Then we should not ascribe rights to all humans then.
That's correct. I teach in a prison. When people do horrible things, they lose some of their rights based on a social contract that we construct.
Then what makes them rights?
We come together and agree with on them, and they change all the time.
So we made them up.
Absolutely. What else? They didn't come from a magic fairies, but
So if that's the case and we just made them up, aren't you just asking us to have faith in them? Isn't it just dogma?
well, I guess you and I right now, I'm trying not to interrupt you. I think that's because if we keep interrupting each other, things won't go well. Now, if you say to me, Phil, these rules were established by a magical deity, I'm going to say to you, I don't think so. I'm not convinced of that, but you and I can still agree on what would make for a fair conversation. And so me saying, I think you should treat me the way I want to treat you in this debate in terms of not interrupting, that is not a dogma. If you say, oh, the rules of this debate were invented by a magical invisible deity who exists outside of time and space. To me, that's stretching. If that's dogma, then everything, a baseball game is dogma. Who's to say 3 strikes, you're out? Maybe it's 2. It's just dogma. Right. That's the nature of living in society. We come together and just so you know, humans have existed a lot longer before Christianity ever showed up. So clearly people were able to have cities and trade and raise families long before Jesus ever came. So
hang on, are we discussing whatever past cultures were, or are we making a comparison between two systems? The system is Christianity and society versus secular humanism and its governance of society. I want to make sure that we're very clear with the criticism that we should not follow Christianity due to the fact it's dogmatic and unprovable.
Again, it's a straw man here. You simply asked me. You simply asked
okay.
me.
Hang on. That's fair. That's true. I'm taking it from your previous words, not your words right now. That's fair.
Pick all the
So
things
I'll just ask you.
disagreed from.
So I'll just ask you. Is a lack of demonstrable evidence good reason to not believe in God?
I don't even have any desire to get into this conversation. I'm a sociologist. I'm not a theologian or philosopher, and you've already confused me by a double negative. So can you try again? Are we debating the existence of God? I didn't know that was this debate.
No, I'm not. I'm making a comparative analogy for reasons that you might want to believe in secular humanism. So when you say that people ought believe in secular humanism, you are making the claim that people should follow it, right?
I don't care what people believe.
So you're not here to advocate that people should follow secular humanism?
You said ought to believe. That's different. What I'm saying is,
well, they should follow it but not believe it. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Right. So for example, if someone says to me, I don't think we ought to harm others because a magical pumpkin told me that, that's fine. I agree that we ought not harm others. What their beliefs are behind that is less important to me. If you don't believe in harming others because your God told you, great, you and I can agree. I'm not interested in telling people what they ought to believe. I'm interested in how should a society function best.
I think society functions best when you tell people what to believe. That's what's in question here. So the thing is that when I'm asking you is why is it that if secular humanists, would you agree with me, for instance, that if secular humanists took over the role of most of governance of any society, that they're going to reduce their ideology down at least to force for enforcement of said ideology. They're going to enforce laws. They're going to enforce belief structures, cultural taboos like incest, various things like this.
Are you talking about like the Bill of Rights?
Bill of Rights would be a great example of something which is dogmatic, and you could even perhaps say that it has secularism in it from the First Amendment. So that's fine. I mean, if you want to use that as an example, the idea there is that all of that's going to be enforced by using force of the state, right?
Yeah, it's called. I mean, I don't know how else.
I understand. Look, I understand. I just want to make sure we get the positions clear.
Yeah.
Do you see any problem with that?
Of course, as I guess what was it Churchill said, democracy is the absolutely worst form of government. It beats all the alternatives. If you and I were getting on a plane to Texas tonight to go to that DEBATECON, and there were 300 of us, and the plane crashed on an island, we would have to figure out how to survive together, and we would make up rules. And if people violated those rules, we'd come. I mean,
I agree.
So
I agree with all of this. There's no what I'm asking you though is you don't have an issue just specifically with having a dogmatic structure like the Constitution, right? The Bill of Rights, which is pure dogma. You would have to agree it is.
What's your definition of dogma?
So, well, I'm going to go off of your definition here. What you say, which when you're talking about dogma, you're saying it's a thing which reduces past materialism. Is that right?
Oh, if I said that, I don't remember it, and forgive me. I tend to think of dogma in a kind of pejorative sense, like dogma is something people believe. It could be political, it could be religious, that they believe in a kind of knee-jerk way without, applying critical thinking, and it tends to be in the service of propagandistic services. It could be secular, it could be Marxist, it could be Stalinist. That's my, but I don't.
Well, I mean, how would that not fit the criteria of the Bill of Rights, though?
Well,
it would, right?
If you put a mechanism says these are subject to change, that to me would be the opposite of anytime you have a mechanism that says we assert these, but we're only asserting them through our own authority, and others are free to change them.
But isn't the axiom that affirms them God? Isn't that dogmatic by its very nature? That it's axiomatically the idea that rights at all are even in existence. The axiom which is appealed to is the God axiom, right? So
I don't see it that way, but I could see how.
Well, I mean, it is, right? Which truths are we holding self-evident that rights come from where? At least according to our dogma in the United States.
Right. Well, I would argue that in the Declaration of Independence, it's certainly the idea that nature's God is the source, but that's not the source. That's not in the Constitution, which is actually the blueprint of our.
Look, I hang on. Well, the Constitution, pre-Constitution, we had the Articles of Confederation, as you know. The Constitution was a compromise between the various states and the government. The states did not want the government to interfere in the states' religions. And that's why they had that compromise of the First Amendment, right? That way the government wouldn't say everybody has to be a Catholic. Obviously, states which were Protestant did not want to be Catholic. They still had state religions post-Constitution. I mean, for most of our history, we had state religions. So the idea is that from the federal level, right, there's a secular barrier which is there so that the federal government cannot impose these various actions on the states. It was always up to the states to have their own religions if they wanted them.
But I think that comes from human wisdom, not from a magic.
I understand the view. That makes sense to me from your perspective that is, but they are appealing to an axiom.
Not all of them.
Well, hang on. In the Declaration of Independence,
are we debating like U.S. history? We can do a different society.
No, right now I'm just trying to format that there seems to be some kind of dogmatic approach here due to the fact that they're not saying these rights come from our minds or our brains or agreement. The universal concept at the time was that rights came from God. That it was. Now you don't have to believe that or even say it was good.
So what's the point?
Yeah, I'm just wanting an agreement that seems dogmatic.
Oh, I guess, sure. If you want me to call, if I got you correct, you're saying most of the framers of the U.S. Constitution
followed dogma.
That rights came from God and thus it was a dogmatic situation.
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't use those words, but okay, it's fine.
Well, that's what I'm asking you though. Like, what would make it not dogmatic? It sounds like the whole thing was based around the
Yeah.
dogma
I don't
of
think
the
so.
idea of rights. So rights had to be grounded somewhere.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
they grounded those rights in God because that's what gave them teeth, right? I think it would be way different. They're like, we hold these truths to be self-evident that we made all this shit up. I don't think that would like have the same appeal, right? There was a fourth horseman arm.
Well, that's back then. That's the way people tended to look at the world. But so that's like saying, when they built Notre Dame, the Cathedral of Notre Dame, they were appealing to God. Of course they were, but what built it was science and engineering and technology. God didn't build Notre Dame. Now, if you go back and say, well, back in the 1300s or whenever they built Notre Dame, they were appealing to God. Of course they were. That was their worldview. But that's not what built Notre Dame. What built Notre Dame
So that is dogma then.
I guess I feel like you're trying to set me up for something. So
I'm not trying to set you up. I just want to make sure that the view is clear. Look, I'm never trying to set anybody up
on dogma.
Well, because if the idea here, the idea that secular humanism is better for society, my argument to you is that you're also appealing to immaterial concepts as though they should be appealed to in a spiritual way. Ideas like rights, for instance.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't. At the end, then you got me. At the end of the day, like I think unwanted suffering is unpleasant, but I can't prove it in some beyond my experience. So you may be right. Maybe kicking babies in the face for pleasure is fine.
I'm not even really just talking about whether or not in the individualistic action itself we couldn't agree was bad. So I would agree with you. Let me give you an olive branch, right? You and I would probably agree on a few universals that taking things that don't belong to you, that's wrong, right? At least in most cases, that's wrong. Hurting people who haven't done anything wrong, we would probably agree that that's wrong. Like these are things which we can maybe universalize a little bit, right?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, so that seems fair to me. The issue that I have is the appeal. So when the Christian makes the appeal, he's looking for what's grounded. I think it's silly, and I have heard, look, you might say don't use any of the previous debates. I think that's fair, but you have referred to God as Sky Daddy, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. But
I assume
aren't
something I would say.
But aren't rights just like rights daddy? Like, aren't you making the same appeal? You're just saying there's this translucent, immaterial, nonsensical thing that we just like make an appeal to, and we should all just pretend it's true. Like, aren't you doing the exact same thing?
Okay, so I guess I appreciate that. Let me see if I understand your argument. You're saying that I am critical of people who say, oh, Sky Daddy said it, therefore we must obey it.
Right.
And that's ridiculous because I can't see, hear, smell, touch, or taste this Sky Daddy, and we shouldn't base society or laws on a magical invisible being. And yet I'm turning around and saying, we ought to, women ought to have equal rights in the workplace. And children ought not to be beaten. And then, but you're appealing to the same thing. Nothing.
Right. Yeah, nothing.
So thank you. So I got your point. So this is where I would say I would agree with you and disagree with you. The notion that all claims are, you said it's the exact same thing. I don't see it that way, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So when you say to me, I'll give you some examples because maybe that'll help. Okay.
Sure.
God does not approve of homosexual marriage. And I don't even know if you say that. One could say that. Let's just say
I say that.
Okay. Sure. A Christian could say God does not approve of homosexual marriage. Mm-hmm. Now, the proof of that is God hasn't told me that. I didn't get an email from God. So I'm relying on your interpretation of some ancient text that I believe was written by people. But the evidence I see is that my gay friends and relatives who are married seem to be doing quite well, just like everybody. They have their ups and downs, but the evidence that I can see, hear, smell, touch, and taste is that gay marriage isn't harming anyone. No one is, it's not causing immediate, you could say it's causing indirect harm because this and that, but we could do that about many things like driving a car. My point is, but if I make an assertion like, we ought not let gay people get married, I can see the pain and suffering it causes. They can't visit their loved ones in the hospital. They don't have the same kind of societal right. Like, in other words, you're saying like it's all invisible anyway, but I can see the harm that comes.
Hang on, let's untangle two concepts here. The first concept is, remember earlier I said that basically your worldview would reduce to effects. And right now what you're talking about is the reduction to effects. You're saying I can't ground why gay people ought to get married. I can only tell you from the effects of gay people getting married that I can see that it seems okay.
And I can see their suffering when they're not allowed to.
Right. Okay, got it.
observe
But
it.
those are effects, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is when the second you make an appeal and say they have a right to get married, now you're making an appeal to an invisible, translucent, can't taste it, touch it, smell it, see it, exists nowhere, rights daddy, right? So
Well,
if it,
okay,
hang on, so
then no one.
hang
well,
on,
I guess.
hang on, let me finish the
What
point
would
real
be?
quick.
What
Let me
kind of
finish the
a
point real quick. I'm almost
Okay.
done. I want to tie it together so that you understand it, right? At least understand my view. When you make these universal claims, when secular humanists make these universal claims, and that is how you identify as a secular humanist, you've been a secular humanist speaker, in fact. I went and watched some of your lectures.
That's nice.
I mean, isn't that the case? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I identify as a secular.
Yeah,
humanist.
so when a secular humanists make the universal claim of rights, the second you make a universal claim that we all have rights, that is what you base the idea that gays should be able to get married on. They have a right to do so, a human right to do so. You're now making an appeal, hang on,
Yeah.
to an invisible thing that you completely fucking made up while saying you're not going to listen. Hang on. I'm almost done. While saying at the exact same time, you're not going to listen to my appeal to a thing that you claim I made up. That's the problem.
So I understand, I think. So when you say that I think people ought to have the right to be married regardless of their genitalia, and you say I'm appealing to an invisible thing.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what that thing is I'm appealing to?
Well, you're appealing to you.
So
you're just appealing to you.
So that's not an invisible thing.
Unless you say it's a right. So I would just say that when you say it's a right, now you're making an appeal to something else. You're saying that there's something else that people have access to.
So if I say everybody has a right to adequate health care.
Yeah.
And you say that I'm grounding that in the same thing as your God. Can you explain? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, here, let me help you out. Do you think that
anything other than what I live and see and experience?
Let me explain better, maybe. Maybe I can reduce it a different way. Do you think that Christianity is made up?
Absolutely. But what do you mean by Christianity? Do you mean like what
all of it? All forms of Christianity are made up.
Made up by
people.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, that's fair. So this goes back to the first question, which you said we don't want to have a debate on God, but here we are. So the thing is like if that's the case, and you believe that Christianity is just completely made up, then it sounds like you're saying I shouldn't believe in it because it's made up. If that's the case, well, hang on. Hang on. If Christians are saying gays should not get married because God, your rebuttal here is saying, well, I shouldn't listen to that though, because that's made up, right?
No,
Well, right. So if that's the case, then I'm just giving the same criticism back. Well, I'm not going to listen to you when you say they have rights because that shit's just made up by your own admission.
Right, but that's the nature of the beast. We're on a planet. You are existing, I'm existing, people are existing. If you want to drive, Andrew, and you don't want to get in a car accident, we have rules for the road. Are those rules for the road? Those were invented by people. They're not, I don't say, and they came from a magic deity, but I assume you follow the rules of the road.
I don't even know what that means. You mean, do I follow things that people will use force against me if I don't follow? Yeah, probably.
Cars didn't exist for a long time, and then they existed. And then we decided if we don't want to get hurt, we have to create rules of the road, like speed limits, lanes, traffic signals.
I agree.
All of that we made up.
Yeah, we made it all up.
So
I agree.
You're saying that my advocacy for human-made traffic laws is the exact same thing as someone who says those laws were created by a magical deity.
Well, I guess, yeah, because all that's happening, it's happening here is like I'm conceding the point, but it hurts you, not me. So here's what I mean by that.
But what am I? You said
hang on. I'll explain. Yeah, you are. You're appealing to. You're saying Christians are appealing to. I made it up. but you're also appealing to I made it up.
No, you said, and maybe I misunderstood you, but I tried to give your words back to you and you said I did a good job. You said that appealing to God in deciding civil matters like who gets married
Yeah.
is the exact same thing. Those were your words, not mine, as me appealing to, I think
Rights.
people ought to be able to do this.
No, rights. Specifically rights.
Okay.
It is the same thing. You're making an appeal to something which is absent to sense data, cannot be measured by any of the metrics which you said we should metric things by.
It can be measured. We can see what happens when
No,
people
those are
go to bed.
effects, not the thing.
Okay, I don't really understand.
Well, you do. I think you do understand, and I'll break it down even further.
I think what you're trying to say is that we both believe in nonsense, so how do we know which is better?
No, what I'm saying is that from your view, everything from the materialist view reduces to nonsense. So it works like this. Rights are, from my view, are useless.
I don't think
hang on. Rights from
traffic laws are.
Hang on. Can I make the? Do you want the argument or not?
Well, I don't like you putting words in my mouth that I don't.
I'm talking about my words. My words.
You said according to your view, you think everything.
No, I said I think according to the materialist view, all things reduce to nonsense. And so here's why I think all things reduce to nonsense in the materialist view, because by your own admission, we just make all this shit up. If that's the case, you don't really have rights. What you have instead is broad appeals to force. What we're really arguing about in the reduction of all of this is that you believe that human beings have a specific thing which should be granted to them, right? In this case, rights, something like this, and you're willing to utilize.
Bill of Rights.
You're willing to utilize.
Bill of Rights are great.
I know, but you're willing to utilize force in order to ratify or protect these rights.
I don't know. I've never said that in any debate. I don't recall ever saying we ought to.
Then what? Then okay. Well, let's start.
I don't know what you're quoting by. I used force on.
Well, here I'll demonstrate it for you, just with a couple basic questions. So
the ultimate force is God thing. If you don't do this, I will smite you.
I totally agree. Now here's the question. Do you agree with me then that rights are just social constructions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then they're changeable.
Absolutely.
Okay, they're completely changeable. When a
Duh.
right,
Look at history.
Isn't the case use that a right is only as useful as it is enforced? Otherwise, why is it useful? How is it useful to have a right if there's no enforcement? Like, for instance, if you had a right to not be assaulted, but anybody could assault you whenever they wanted to, and it was never enforced, do you really have a right to not be assaulted at that point?
I don't know. This is weird. It's too hypothetical.
Weird. No, it's not hypothetical.
You're saying,
or it's not too hypothetical. It's a very basic question.
So you're saying, I think everybody has a right to not be shot in the face, but if I do get shot in the face, then I don't have that right.
No. What I'm saying is that if it's the case that you had a right to, I don't know, vote, okay, but then when you got to the polls, you weren't allowed to vote, right?
Okay.
Do you think that would really be a right? Like, absent the ability to operate, to do the thing, to appeal to some authority to enforce the right, don't you think that the right is basically useless?
So if you're saying like, hey, everybody has a right to go to the dentist, but all the dentist shops are closed, it's kind of null and void.
No, it's more like, let's say you have a right to go to a dentist, but dentists all want to refuse you that right.
Yeah, then
there's no way for you to enforce it.
Yeah,
right?
Like what we did to black people.
Yeah, right. So they didn't have rights, right?
Or they didn't have the same rights as white people.
So that right was only as good as it was enforced.
Of course.
Yeah, right. Okay, got it. So we've reduced this down to the idea that you have is force.
Well, yeah, but force can be nonviolent.
How?
You can sit in a road and not let people, like the nonviolent.
That's not force.
Sure it is.
How is that force?
It shut down the buses system couldn't work because people boycotted them.
That wasn't force.
Okay, so wait, your point is, to me, so you're saying Christianity doesn't use force to enforce its views?
No, I'm saying it does.
Okay, and what's your point?
My point is that the reduction on your view is force. What we're really arguing about is the idea of who should be assigned the adequate force to enforce the things that they believe.
It's called a state. That's what a government is.
If that's the case, why is it that Christians shouldn't be rushing to get the monopoly on force? Why not?
I don't understand your question.
Well, if it's the case that we're really just arguing over who should have the sort of power
Right.
because they're going to have the monopoly on force,
Right.
can you tell me why Christians shouldn't have that?
Sure. You want to know
Okay.
why I think Christians shouldn't run the government?
No. That's not my question. My question specifically is just this. If all rights are just reduced to force, which you've now conceded they are,
I'm
and
not sure I understand that. I have
you just
tried my
conceded that
hardest.
it's true, but we can go through it again.
I have tried my hardest to sort of listen to your meandering and sort of like, yes, I agree.
That's
no, I
not
agree.
meandering. It's the
Well,
opposite of meandering. It's precision questions
Well-
designed to explore the view.
when do I get to ask you some questions?
Well, we're not even halfway through the debate, but if
Okay,
we could,
because
if
so
you
far I feel like you're
if we can just
you're
finish,
driving this.
well, if
You're
we can
trying
just
to
finish
get me
this,
to, well, what do
it's
you want
funny
me to
because
say?
you every time. Let me ask you this: you've asked me over a dozen questions, and I've answered each one precisely. Yes, we do believe
They're
that.
always in
No, we don't
response
believe
to
that.
things that you're
Yes, we
driving.
do believe that. No, we don't believe that. I've been
Right.
very precise. So the thing
What
is
would you
like,
like from me?
yeah, what I just want you to if rights are not force, they don't reduce to force. How are they even useful? If a right's not enforced, how is it even useful?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
You don't know?
When I think of examples, I think, for example, if I see that, if I believe, if someone says to me, hey, we ought not drive drunk, and everybody has a right to drive safely with the threat of being killed, I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. It will decrease suffering and increase well-being. Now, if people don't abide by that and they keep drinking drunk, then yeah, I think they should not be
No,
allowed to
that
drive.
wouldn't be correct. The correct way to look at that would be if cops just didn't ever pull over drunk drivers. And if they did, they just always let them go. Even though people had a right to the roadways to drive without there being drunk drivers, you would say that's a pretty useless right at that point, right?
So what I'm saying is, in my understanding of what this, and I don't really know where this is all going, but I think you're
I
trying
don't know
to
why you try to
anticipate-
anticipate outcomes. I don't know why you do that. I don't ever do
Because-
that. I'm just trying to be honest. Like,
Well,
I
what
just
is
try
it
to
that
be
you wanna
honest.
know?
I just want to know how a right can be useful without force. How?
It's an ideal.
Well, that's a principle, not a right.
Okay. Then my answer is I don't know.
Well, isn't a right is some form of like entitlement, right?
I guess.
Yeah,
This isn't
wouldn't
my
it be
area.
wouldn't
This
it be
isn't my-
like an entitlement absent a duty? It wouldn't like when you say an adherence to a principle can be useful, sure, but like for instance, let's say the First Amendment. If it was the case that, and it is the case that you have a right to, be safe with your effects or things like this, or let's say the Fifth Amendment or the Fourth Amendment or any of these. If it was the case that a cop could just take you into an interrogation room and just beat the tar out of you whenever he felt like it, but you had a right at the same time that a cop could not do that,
Right.
would you say that that was a useful right, or would you say that was a pretty not useful right?
I would say it's a useful right that's being violated.
Well, right. Well, okay, but if it's always being violated, meaning it's never being enforced, how would that even be useful to you? It's only useful if it's enforced, right?
It has to be upheld, and if it's not,
Yeah, it has to be enforced.
Okay.
So when we're talking about rights, we're really just always creating a reduction to force. And if we're talking about force, then what you're really asking me to do is give up force to you for your view.
okay, I don't. Can you give me an example in the real world of what you're talking about?
Sure. So here would be a good example of this. Once upon a time, black kids couldn't go to white kids' schools, right?
Right.
If it was the case that the law said that they could, but the National Guard hadn't shown up when it was the case that the governor said that they couldn't, would that right have done the black people any good?
In that particular moment, the right had to be enforced.
All rights have to be, every right that I can think of
Okay.
and have always thought of has to operate that way.
Okay.
So now if they have a right to go to the school and you're barring them access to the school,
Right.
they now can appeal for redress to force. And
Okay.
every single right operates that way.
Okay.
So if that's the case, and you're making the claim that there's universal rights based on secular humanism, which you are, then that would mean that you're saying that secular humanists need to have the monopoly on force. You would have to, because you're making the appeal that these rights and dogmas, which come from your worldview, are universalized. And so therefore force should be universalized to enforce those rights. And that's what you're actually asking Christians to do, is to yield rights to you, or to yield force to you. And I'm asking why we should do that. Why the hell should we do that?
So I'm a little bit confused when you mean like Phil Zuckerman should be the emperor and I should decide everything. Is that what you
No.
mean by I think we
I'm
should
saying
yield all
that
rights to-
Christians are a broad coalition or collection. Once upon a time, they were pan-Protestant. There was various collections of them that way. Now, hang
I'm
on.
just asking a question.
I'm
Who was
answering
the-
it.
Who was the you?
It would be the collective of secular humanists, which you're appealing to their dogma or your dogma with them.
Oh, so if I understand you correctly, no, I would not say that only secular, self-identified secular humanists are in charge and you all have to do what we say. That seems bizarre to me.
Then how do you universalize the rights that you want universalized?
The best I can look at is representative democracy. I've lived in many countries. I've seen which ones seem to function better than others. And the ones that seem to function the best are the ones that appeal to human created rules and human mechanisms that do not appeal to anything supernatural. Now, I could be wrong about that. But
You're appealing rights is an appeal to something supernatural by your own agreement. Multiple times now, you're making the same exact appeal to something which is ethereal, does not exist, is immaterial, can't be accounted for, cannot be measured by your own definition. None of these things.
Well, I don't agree with that. What I said.
Well, yeah. Let's take traffic laws.
I haven't
the traffic
appealed to
law
anything
itself,
supernatural in traffic laws.
No, but you appeal to something supernatural with rights.
Fine, but can you let me speak for myself, or do you want to put the words in my mouth?
These are your words you've told me tonight.
I am saying to you that the best functioning societies right now are just people who have come together collectively and decided what is the best way we want to live.
Yeah.
And they appeal to experience, they appeal to reason, they appeal to all kinds of things.
They appeal to human rights.
Not necessarily.
Which ones don't?
You're putting words in my mouth.
Which ones don't?
Can you let me just speak? Can you just let me speak?
Okay, but you're not going to get away from the question. Like, which ones don't appeal to human rights? Every country you're going to cite appeals to human rights.
I want to give Dr. Zuckerman a chance to finish.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is when I read the Constitution of Denmark, which I haven't memorized, so I'd have to go back and Google it. There are laws in the Danish law books that articulate how the society is going to function that does not appeal to anything supernatural. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does say like our Lord Jesus's blood dictates that we all have to, everybody's, goes to school on these times. But the laws that govern modern Denmark were created by people for each other based on collective sentiment and democratic principles and processes with no appeal to something supernatural.
Human rights in the Kingdom of Denmark are protected by the state's constitution. Human rights are appealed to multiple times all throughout the state's constitution. That's an appeal to something supernatural, sir. There is no such thing as a right by your own admission. It's just made up shit. It's ethereal nonsense. Would you like to read the Constitution? I can pull it up. Name a single country you would appeal to that's not looking for these supernatural rights as being the grounded foundation. For instance, the democracies that you want so badly, you have a right to vote. You have a right to vote. That's what makes a democracy work.
And you're saying that I think it's something supernatural that grants.
I'm saying it has to be definitionally. How do we measure it? Where does it exist materially? Where you're just making an appeal to it.
Like, what are you talking about?
We do what? We do what? We make appeals to things that don't exist.
No, we live our lives collectively and agree on what kind of rules we want to follow. I don't understand why that's so mysterious to you. Do you really think
that part's not?
I mean,
okay,
I feel like
you make an appeal, you have a right to do X.
Andrew, are you telling me?
Right?
You're telling me that people don't get together collectively and decide how they want to live except by appealing to the supernatural?
I'm saying no. Of course not.
So
I'll make it very concise for you. I'm saying that if it's the case that you have reduced, and you did, and you can go back this up if you want, when you come to an agreement that rights are a thing, which by your own metrics cannot be measured by
Can we
science.
put
Hang on,
rights
hang on.
aside for a second,
Do you
Andrew?
want? No, we can't.
Let's
No,
look
no,
at
no.
societies. Let's just
I'm
look
looking at
at
societies. They all have rights. All
and
words are
what
appealing
are
to rights.
supernatural? What's supernatural there?
I'm trying to explain it to you because tell me, by any metric of measurement, how do I measure right absent my faith in the right?
You can look and see who's hungry.
No, those are effects,
Fine.
not the thing itself.
Fine.
How do I measure?
How do you measure anything? How do you measure God?
From that's my whole point, though. You say I can't measure God,
but I can measure hunger easily.
But you can't measure a right.
But I can measure hunger
But you can't measure a right, right?
I can say people have a right to.
You're appealing to a supernatural thing in your own dogmas.
Hunger?
Not hunger. Hunger would
Andrew,
be a material condition.
Try this, Andrew. Try this. Try to say my point as best you can, and then show me why I'm wrong. But first,
I'll steel man it for you. Sure. So the steel man to your position is this, Andrew. As a sociologist, I've been all over the place. Right? I've been to many countries. The countries that I generally see, which have the best effects for the people, are countries that embrace some sort of secular division between religion and not religion. Okay? Those are the countries that you like the best because you see the best effects. You further go on to qualify this by saying, Andrew, I believe that human beings can get together, come up with formulas and laws and conditionals for how they can live, absent any appeal to anything which is supernatural.
Love it.
Am I wrong?
I appreciate that.
Now, why don't you do the same thing for my position?
Oh, okay. But then you got to tell me though what was wrong about what you just said.
Nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with what I said.
Okay. Well, then we're in agreement. Okay. So
okay, great. So what
your position is this? I think your position is, Phil, at the end of the day, if you say that people have a right to vote, or people have a right to not be hungry, or people have a health care, or a right to public education, you're making some kind of universalistic claim about rights. But at the end of the day, those rights don't live on a star. They don't live in outer, like, where are these rights? Who grants these rights? What are these rights? Aha, there's no there. So these assertions are just axiomatic statements that have no empirical proof. And at the end of the day, they just resort to some kind of force, because if you say everybody has a right to go to school, and if someone denies that right, then we call the police to let them go to school. So your point seems to be that at the end of the day, secular humanism is based on nothing. It's groundless. It's just hot air. Am I right?
I think you got that to be perfectly charitable. I think you got like 80% of the position correct. The one deviation that we have is what the core of my argument here is, the core of the critique, which is just this simply. We can, by your own admission now, and even now that we've steel manned both our positions, we should be able to come to agreement that rights are basically only as good as they are enforced. They can change easily. They can change whether there's a dictator, a democracy, whatever. Rights are always changeable. They're always malleable. They're not written in stone, nothing like that. They're only as good as our faith in them is good, just like currency, right? That's it. So if that's the case, we're looking at force. And so if there's a universal claim that people ought to have these rights, which is what you're making, a universal claim, all people deserve to have these rights, then what you're asking for is a monopoly on force, because those rights can't be useful in any way, shape, form, or capacity absent force. So what you're asking Christians for is to give you the monopoly on force. That's the part that you're missing, I think.
Okay.
So why should Christians give you the monopoly on force? If you make the universal claim that these rights, that everybody ought to have these rights, which you're making that claim, and you agree that rights reduce to force, if Christians do not agree with you on what these rights are, why should they give you access to force?
You mean, so like, if Christians don't believe in gay marriage, why should they have to abide by it?
Why should they give you access to the force to enforce that gays ought get married? When you make this universal claim, gay men ought be married. I understand the claim. That makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that you believe it. It makes sense that the reason you believe it is due to alliance. Meaning, You're going to use the power of the state to enforce rights. That's what you're going to do. And if and you're going to enforce those rights, even if I don't like them, on me. And one of your major criticisms from previous lectures was that you were concerned that Christians were going to do that to you. But you're asking for the exact same thing the second you make a universal claim we all have rights.
So I'm not sure I understand that. So let me see if I can unpack this.
Sure.
What's the alternative
To what?
That scenario you just described? You're like, well, Phil.
Oh, Christians monopolize the force instead, and we impose our will instead of letting you impose yours.
And so you're saying at some point, no matter what, some group or worldview is going to be holding the force. And so
no, I'm saying in this case, you're actually advocating to hold the monopoly of force, because if you make a universal claim for rights and all rights must be enforced, then you're actually advocating that you have the monopoly on force. It's just an XY argument. If X, then Y. If rights reduce to force, right? X is force, then rights lead to force. Force is a necessary component for rights. So you're actually asking me for force, for universal rights. And rights I don't agree with. Why should I give them to you? That's what I'm asking.
The alternative?
That Christians instead, we take the power of force instead to make the imposition of whatever the fuck it is that we want, that we make up. Whatever we make up, we're going to use the power of force instead of you. Why should we not do that?
So you're saying these are our only options here. Like, I'm either going to force you to follow my rights, or you're going to force me to follow your.
In this case, yes, if you're making the universal claim that all people ought have X rights, then you are making the claim that you are trying to move into positions of power to give those people those rights. Otherwise, how's it an ought claim? Or at least you're advocating that these rights or this force be used to give X amount of people these rights. Why should I give it to you? I don't want to give it to you. I want to keep it for myself, for my people, right? I want them to have the monopoly on force to impose our will on whatever shit we make up instead of whatever shit you make up.
So, Andrew, are you saying to me that if you and me sat at a table over beers, I'm not a smoker, and we were somehow given the chance to shape the laws of the land, you don't think we could come up with some just basic agreements?
Maybe.
What do you think?
Oh, probably all kinds of agreements.
Right. We could probably agree that, like, would we agree that, like, no one ought to, violently harm someone else for no reason?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So what you and I just did was agree on something. Have I used my secular humanist cudgel to force you into that? Or have you used your Christian saber to force me into that? Or did you?
Yeah. But what about other issues, though? You're not.
No,
it's nice. It's not. Hang on. It's nice for you.
We could do.
It's nice for you. Hang on. It's nice for you to contextually say, I can give you something which is a universal that most people tend to prefer. Like, Andrew, do you think that most people should be able to breathe oxygen?
No, that wasn't my point. My point was that if you and I can sort of agree on rules or just rules of this debate, like you and I can agree that we ought to let each other finish our sentences.
Sure.
Who's used the club? Have I used a club on you, or have you used a club on me, or have we both agreed?
I'm going to agree to this point because, again, this is not actually contending with the position. If it's the case that you and I come to an agreement here that I'm not going to interrupt you or you're not going to interrupt me in this debate, neither of us are saying that you have a right to not be interrupted, or I have a right to not be interrupted. If I interrupt you, men with fucking hats and guns are going to come kick in my door and drag my ass to jail because I have violated your rights. In the UK right now, for instance, if you call somebody the F slur via text message, you can actually go to jail for doing that. It's a violation of their rights. So the thing is that when you're talking about rights, as long as you say we can agree to things that we're not going to enforce,
can I pursue this the way that you have pursued me? Like, I want to ask you.
Yes, absolutely.
So you and I can agree on the rules of this debate. And if we had a third person, let's say it was a round table, the three of us could agree on rules of this debate. I don't see anybody using force there. I think you're agreeing and I'm agreeing because we both want the same thing. We both want to be heard and understood, and we know it'll function better that way. You seem to be suggesting, so if I say you have a right to not be interrupted, now we're getting into semantics. Do I think you have some mystical cosmic right? No, I'm saying you and I are agreeing on what are the terms of this debate. And that's not, to me, I don't need to appeal to anything other than each other. We appeal to each other. And
but we don't appeal to each other for rights. We appeal to an authority which has a body of force in order to do what's called rights enforcement.
I'm not going to call the police on you if you interrupt me.
Well, wait, but think about what you just said.
Yeah, I'm saying
you would call that there's an authoritative body which you can call
us
to throw me in jail.
No, I never said anything about.
No. Hang on. The authoritative body could throw me in jail if I violated one of your rights.
No, I've never said
yes,
that.
They could though, right?
Well, I don't agree to that.
Yeah, I mean, you agree to that the second you call the police and say this guy's violating my rights, right?
No, there's no police here. It's you and me and James.
Yeah.
There's no threat of violence.
Yeah, but there's no rights here.
Okay, but I'm saying you have a right not to be interrupted. Is that?
Yeah, but what? Okay, but I want to show you the weakness here with this line of argumentation. Okay, sure. Me, you, and James were all in a room, and we can agree on all sorts of things. And I go, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm just going to beat this guy. I'm just going to beat this guy to death with a hammer. What's the problem?
That's a different. You're taking into a different hypothetical. You're not allowing.
Yeah, but what's wrong? What's wrong with that? At that point, am I violating your rights? You know, like you see my point.
No, I don't see your point. I think
okay. Well, go ahead with your line of argumentation.
My point is that humans can agree to certain principles that they want to live by. And I don't think that's controversial. I don't think that's weird. And you want to keep saying, aha, you secular humanists, you want to have the monopoly on force and make us submit to your version of the world. And I'm saying, no, I think we could all agree together on how we want to live. And we
really? Then why do you work in a prison? Is it full of prisoners?
Do you want to understand my point, or do you want to pick holes in it?
Well, no, I'm pointing out the obvious contention here. You work in a prison full of prisoners who obviously are not living by whatever these rules are that you think we should be agreeing to.
Right, and we all agreed that they ought to be in prison, and many of them agreed
right.
too.
With force?
Right, but
so
in my neighbor, so you're saying that humans can't, but that itself is a part of the human agreement. We agreed that if people don't follow these rules, these are the consequences.
Now you're getting it right.
There could be other
consequences. That's perfect. So now that we've agreed that if there's a violation of rights, we're going to use force to throw people in prison and then use force to keep them there. Why should I give the power of those things, that force, to you people instead of giving it to Christians? That's the point.
So you don't understand how democracy works?
I'm saying, why even value that? Who cares?
Well, then
ultimately, why even value? The thing is like, if it's the case that we're just making shit up,
right?
Which by your admission we are, we're just making shit up, right? And we're just making up the rules that we all want to kind of live by because for whatever reason, but we're willing to use force to enforce those rules, things like rights and concepts like rights and things like this. Then why should I cede all power of force to you so that you can enforce what you think the rights should be instead of what we think they should be? That's the question.
You shouldn't.
Exactly. And that's why when we're talking about the incoherence of the worldview of secular humanism, you've just demonstrated it beautifully.
How is it? How is yours?
I'm going to show you. Inside of my worldview, there is no problem whatsoever with what you consider rights violations because we don't believe in rights in the same way that you do. We believe in what's called human dignity.
Who cares?
We're the only ones who can even create a grounding for the idea of human dignity.
Then why did you allow for slavery?
Well, I'm sorry. Am I violating somebody's rights?
So wait, how can you say that a slave has dignity if you own them as property?
Wait a second. Who does the Christian appeal to for who makes the laws of the land and what dignity is? Do they appeal to you or do they appeal to God?
Well, they claim to appeal to God, but they don't have any.
They claim to appeal to God. So the thing is like, if from your view here, this is an equally incoherent critique, and I'll explain why. What's wrong with me owning somebody? What?
It's not treating a person the way you would want to be treated.
So,
It causes suffering.
so
Well, so anything.
yeah, exactly my
suffer?
point. What actually gives that
Well,
person
so what?
actually gives that person a right to not be a slave? What?
I know what it's like to suffer.
What can you hang on? What I'm saying is, what can you
Okay,
point
so
to?
I get to interrupt you every time.
I just want to make sure I get this question out. I just want to make sure I get this question. All right, fine.
I get to interrupt you every time.
Go ahead,
Why
but
does it
I'm
matter?
going to circle back. Just
Why
so you
does it
know.
matter?
Go ahead.
You're saying that why does it matter if someone's enslaved?
Yeah.
Really? You don't
Yeah.
know why?
No.
You
Why?
honestly don't know why.
That's an appeal to
Wait,
incredulity is not
Andrew,
helping your position.
You don't know. You would prefer to be. You don't think there's any difference between enslaved or not being enslaved.
I didn't say there's no difference. I'm asking
and you think one is preferable to the other?
It doesn't matter what's preferable. I'm
asking you.
Yeah. So from my accounting,
Do
you're
you
talking
think
about
being enslaved
cattle.
is preferable?
Yeah. So who do I make my appeals to for what's moral?
I'm asking. I don't care.
Okay. Well, here I'll just answer it in the most direct way possible. I derive all morality from God.
So you say.
So if God says.
So you say
that. So you say if God says slavery in this instance is moral, if I derive morality from God, then sure, it's moral. Then you say slavery is immoral
because it causes suffering.
Hang on, you say slavery
causes suffering.
Okay, hang on. Let me get the point out. You say slavery is immoral because you fucking said so.
No, because it causes suffering.
Yeah, but suffering's wrong because you said so.
Listen to my words.
Well, suffering's wrong because you said so.
You don't think suffering's bad?
It has no bearing on what I think. You think it's wrong because you said so.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, but I asked you first. Isn't it just wrong because you said
I think suffering is bad, not because
you said so.
Not because I said so. Because
then why?
Because it hurts.
So that, but you see how this endless reduction will just end in because I prefer it not to be.
Sure.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then why can't I make the same appeal?
You can.
Then you see the whole then.
So why don't you put your cigarette out in your eye right now?
Because it'll hurt.
So who cares?
Yeah, well, from your view.
No, I'm asking you, not me.
Well,
you.
I'll critique both views.
Do you want to be hurt?
I'm going to critique both views.
Do you want to be hurt?
So for me, I believe that human beings have a sense of dignity, and no, I don't want to be hurt. No.
Why not?
Because it hurts.
So what's wrong with hurt?
Yeah, so that's not a moral claim. That's a preferential claim.
No, it's a physical reality.
But you're trying to make a normative. You're trying to make a normative claim, though.
Oh yeah, I think suffering is not because you don't want to put your cigarette.
Listen, if I stick this in my eye, it's gonna hurt, right?
So who cares? According to your
it's gonna hurt.
So who cares?
No.
Is that a normative
claim? That's my point. It's not a normative claim.
But is hurt pleasant?
No, of course not.
So I would like to avoid suffering.
Unless you're at the gym.
If it's wanted suffering, great. But
then it's not a normative claim. Yeah. So what are you talking? What you're doing is you're conflating a normative claim, which is a moral claim, with a preferential claim. Yes, I prefer not to have my eyeballs burn out with a cigarette. But can you tell me why it's immoral if I did burn my eyes out with a cigarette? No, exactly.
If you choose to do that,
only I can account for that, not you.
I agree.
That's the point.
I agree.
But this is the whole flaw with secular humanism.
So you're saying, so because of that, if another person is being branded with a hot iron against their will, you're like, well, I can't condemn that because I don't know, I can't derive an ought from an is, and even though I see their flesh burning and searing and they're screaming in agonizing pain, I can't make a moral claim. I mean, it's
you can't make one, no, because you just said we make it all up. You just said you made it all up.
We do.
Yeah, so we can make it all up.
That's wrong.
So if I kick back and go, I love the smell of burning flesh in the morning. There's nothing actually immoral or wrong about that.
You know who loves the smell of burning flesh? It's a funny thing that you would bring that. So your move is to say, because humans are just making shit up, there must be some magical being that saves us? Is that
No, it's worse. It's actually, the critique is, I'm willing to grant that I appeal to a magical being, as long as you're willing to grant that you appeal to magical rights, and then I want to know why I should give you the force to enforce those rights.
How is it magical? I'm appealing
because you appear to think that people deserve to have this immaterial shit given to them, or else you wouldn't ask for rights.
Smell the burning flesh. That's not invisible.
I'm not talking about burning flesh. Why does a person have a right to not be a slave?
I think so.
And are you willing to use force to make sure that people are not slaves?
I'm not good with force, but I would do everything I could.
Not you, but at least
You're going to be claiming to do things on command, whereas I'm trying to appeal to things like experience, suffering, well-being, which can be measured. I agree with you in some kind of deep ontological sense. Maybe I don't even know what I'm talking about, and it's all just crazy. I'm willing to admit that. But it's even crazier for me to think that, oh, it's a magical, invisible deity that
I actually don't believe you, and I think I can demonstrate this as being incorrect. I think that you do appeal to some sort of like magical intrinsic value that you think is a universal ought for all people. I can give you an example.
I want to give you a chance
Do
to
you
give
think
the
that
example,
people
Andrew,
should?
but then I also do shortly
Yeah.
want to give Dr. Zuckerman a chance to interrogate you as well.
Yeah, that's fine. I thought he just did, but there's no problem. He can do a longer critique if he wants to.
I'm completely
If you had
clueless as to what
yeah,
we're
if you
even
had
talking
if
about
it was the
anymore.
case that there was an ethno-nationalist state which ran all Jewish people out, that's what they did. And they want to be an all-white ethno state, let's say, in this hypothetical.
Oh, I love that you don't consider Jews white. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I
Okay,
mean,
go on.
I'm giving a hypothetical. It has nothing to do with my actual
Not
view.
hypothetical. It's what happened to my
Yeah,
grandparents.
but I'm
Okay,
giving a
go on.
hypothetical that has nothing to do with my view. And what I'm talking about right
Okay.
now didn't happen to anybody's grandparents because it's a hypothetical. So
Okay.
that you had a all-white ethno state. They didn't consider Jewish people white. So we don't want you here anymore, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and
Happens all
people
the time.
groups get removed
Okay.
all the time. Do you think that people
Right.
should have the self-determination or right to do that? If they're appealing to democracy, they appeal. The whole idea for suffering has to be like, if it's going to be the case that there's 100 intern Japanese, let's say, but there's not going to be any sort of internal terroristic attack, that's still going to be taken into account, right?
I would not like it with Japanese ancestry has to be returned. I think that's a
Why not?
question. Oh, why not? I think it causes unnecessary suffering.
So if it meets all the confines of secular humanism, you appeal to
What are those
suffering.
confines? I don't know.
Well,
what you mean.
so all of the universal values decide to remove one people group that did it based on their self-determination and the maximum happiness and letting on least amount of suffering for the most amount of people. What value would you be appealing to then?
Opposing it? So, Andrew, I'm going to try to do this the best
You're
I
just
can.
going to avoid it.
No, I'm going to say, I'm going to try to do this the best
You're
I
just
can.
going to avoid it.
No, I'm going to say those people would be suffering, and I wouldn't. We should guarantee those rights because they protect us all. And now, I'm sure what I just
Rights. You're
and how
appealing
are
to
they
this thing
supernatural?
again.
How are they supernatural?
Because where are they? Can I touch one? How do I measure it? Where is it? Where is it in the material?
Then
You
I
just
can use
made
a
it up.
different. Then I can use a different. Say that we're gonna reduce suffering and enhance well-being if we all treat each other fairly, apply to everyone equally. I think that's gonna be a better life to live.
Scientific tool that can measure suffering.
Wait. I didn't appeal to anything supernatural. Am I right?
No. I'm just a people group had a minority people group and they wanted them removed.
Right.
Super small minority. Let's just say it's like 0.5% of the population or less.
Right.
Okay. They wanted them removed.
Right.
And they overwhelmingly voted in a government that would do this on their behalf.
Right.
And the government did this on their behalf. How
Right.
could you demonstrate for me that the suffering of the smaller group would be worse than the suffering of all of those people, the hundreds of millions of people who voted them out? How?
You would have to show me what benefit they got from their removal.
It's not about their benefit.
You just said that they would be like all
They just go to they send them to a different nation.
No, the majority people, how is their suffering decreased and their well-being
because the government and democracy and republic for which they sent their government to do this job, if they refuse to do the job of the will of the people, it violates the very tenets of democracy you claim are universal.
I guess I would appeal to compassion.
Compassion. And these tenets of compassion, these aren't supernatural tenets?
I think
then tell me how we measure them.
They're an evolved trait.
How do we measure it?
How do we measure compassion? That's a good question. I guess when I'm pretty sure that if you hooked me up with electrodes and you showed me videos of people getting chopped up with machetes in Rwanda, I think you'd actually see changes in my physiology.
Distress.
My blood pressure would go up, my heart would start racing, and I could even report to you that I feel badly. And then if you showed me videos of people hugging long lost relatives at an airport that they haven't seen in a long time, you could probably see the physical changes in me.
I see. So then empirically, you think that we should do that to every single person who voted for this, or?
I'm already lost on the voting thing.
Because what I'm saying to you is like
I appeal to compassion, and you seem to think
you're appealing to compassion.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this appeal to compassion, the people are like, yeah, who cares about the compassion aspect? Like, that's not a part of. That's not. By the way, yeah, we don't care about that. We're still going to remove them. Yeah. What is the appeal for why they're wrong? They're not being compassionate. Yeah, why are they wrong?
That's the world we live in, Andrew.
Why are they wrong?
All I can do is try to engage them in conversation, try to show them
but why are they wrong to do that? Why?
In some ultimate sense, or what do you mean?
Yeah, in any sense.
Oh, well, I would say that if they have no compassion for the suffering of others, then they are, I would argue.
It's not they have no compassion for the suffering of others. It's just that in this case, just like with, let's say, illegal immigrants, it's not that it's a lack of a compassion, but you just maybe enforcing some laws that you have based on the fact you don't like this people group. That's it. It's not that you're not compassionate, you're not torturing them, but you are removing them. You're just moving them out of your nation.
I don't even know. I'm lost. Sorry.
I just want to know, in this particular case, I'm following the confines of secular humanism. You say there's nothing supernatural. There are no priors here. Why is it that if that's the case, if everybody follows the confines of the doctrine, utilizes democracy, republicanism, whatever form of government you want to get to the result of removing this problematic people group, what can you appeal to within secular humanism? Within secular humanism that makes this wrong? What?
Why are they? You said this problematic people group.
Yeah, because the people don't like them anymore. They just don't like their fucking face. I don't know. Who cares? It's irrelevant.
Well, they're not problematic. It's actually the people
which says that this is wrong. What?
So I could be wrong here. I didn't go to law school, and I'm not a constitutional scholar, but I think I heard that our country was created with certain rules that don't rely on majority rule. So if 51% of Americans said all bald people, tomorrow have to walk on all fours, just because they and they vote that in, we have certain protections that protect minorities from the majority. Now, you're going to ask me, well, what do they appeal to? I think they appeal to human reason and compassion, but I don't know ultimately what.
I'm not even asking what they appeal to. I'm saying within the confines of that system.
Yeah.
If it was the case that they elected,
that system does not allow the government to deport someone, an entire group, solely because of their race, religion, ethnicity, or hair color.
Wait a second. But then let's say they do it for some other reason, like they have a bad, like they don't have a bad ideology they don't like.
Yeah, I think our constitution, well, maybe it depends. That's why I asked you, what is it? Is there
Yeah.
ideology like
But
they're all
in any
Nazis?
case, even if it was the case that people voted in that they could discriminate based on these things, why
Mhm.
is that even problematic? What's it like? They're voting that in via the Republic. All those amendments are changeable.
Mhm.
So let's say they just passed an amendment that says women can't vote. Why
Mhm.
does that violate the secular manifesto or secular humanism at all?
I
Why?
think, well, if you're asking me why, are you asking me why I think women should have the right to vote?
No, I'm asking you, what about the ideology
I don't know.
itself
I don't
is a
know.
stopgap from if people do all the things within the ideology to get to the result that women don't vote? What's the
Look,
problem?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer
I
that.
don't
At
know.
the end of the
Okay.
day, Andrew, y- you, you believe, I don't believe there's anything supernatural. I haven't seen the evidence for it. I could be wrong. I believe that humans are capable of solving problems without appealing to a deity. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see what's so controversial about my position. I think the evidence bears it out that humans are able to solve problems and live relatively well. There's always problems, there's always flaws and cracks in the system. Nothing's perfect. But my position as a secular humanist is there's nothing supernatural that I've been proven to exist. Hence, I live in a world where there is no deity to tell me how to live or tell me what's right. I have to figure it out myself
Okay.
by living and experiencing with other people. So
I think maybe I can change this in a different way to get to the bottom of this. Do you agree with me that there's a difference between organized religion and cults?
as most people employ those terms, sure.
Yeah. So
But it's often a matter of degree, not
yeah.
kind.
So when we're talking about dogmas inside of a cult versus organized religion, dogmas and organized religion, can you tell me the distinguishment in a cult would be things like a charismatic leader, perhaps, could be one part of a cult. In fact, usually that's a pretty direct one. An idea of isolating people from beliefs, an isolation from family. There's all sorts of various things like this, right?
Okay.
Now, an organized religion, they often do the opposite. They want you to be with family more, stuff like this. These are like good ways maybe to delineate between cultish behavior and organized religion. When you're talking about an organized religion, though, you don't have to always appeal to a deity or something supernatural any more than you do inside of a cult. The idea here is, why is it that you can't have priors that you have made up, right? That seemingly have no material existence whatsoever, but you act as though they do anyway, based purely on faith. How is that not dogmatic or religious in nature? Or cultish in nature? Doesn't it seem like it's at least falls in the category of one of those things?
You mean like if someone's just believing something and they don't have a good reason to believe in it?
No, it's not even just a good reason to believe in it. It's assuming the thing which is not actually material. It's not a materialist thing. I'm not phrasing it right. I'm trying to frame it in a way that you'll kind of understand what I'm saying. So let me try this. You only believe in what is material, right?
Gosh, I don't know. I think there's probably stuff out there that is beyond the material realm, but I can't conceive of it, so I don't talk about it.
Yeah, that's fair. So as far as you know, anyway.
As far as I know, I live in a natural world,
Yeah.
that
So
falls,
it's all natural, right? And
as far as I
but
know.
when you say a thing like a right, is a right natural?
Well, I don't know. I never thought about it. That's a good question. Probably
Because
not.
if it's not, then what? If it's not natural, then it would be.
Well, what do you mean by natural?
You just said probably not. If it's not natural, then it would
Oh, I see what
be
you're saying. I think socially constructed.
okay. So it's not natural, but it's not
Well,
supernatural.
right. So to me, like a rock is natural. Human rocks are there, whether humans want them to be or not. They were there before we were be here after we're gone. But like,
But those are
right. But
natural.
baseball to me is, I mean, is baseball natural? Well, not in the same way that like rocks are, but I don't think baseball is supernatural. I think baseball was created by people using their minds and their bodies and their voices and their ideas. So it's like it's a natural occurrence, but
But if you make a claim that universally everybody ought to play baseball
yeah, I
based
wouldn't
on the
make
fact
that.
that they have a right to play
I wouldn't
baseball,
make that claim.
so
But I
you're
would
not making any claims for universal rights?
I would say that I think I do, but I don't think I'm appealing to the supernatural when I do so. Like, okay, if that's what you want me to concede, I guess it's not how I experience reality. That's like me saying, well, I'm going to use Waze to get my destination, and you're going to use a Ouija board, and it's all the same thing because a Ouija board is, at least with the Ouija board, I admit that I'm appealing to ghosts, but with Waze, what are you really appealing to, Phil? Well, I don't know. It's an app someone made. Well, what did they make it? Why did they? Should everybody use your Ouija board if you want to get to Los Angeles? I'm going to use Waze.
I got one last kind of question on this, and then I'll let you finish whatever internal critique you want on my position, because I feel like I got to where I wanted to get to, which is that we never got to a refutation of why Christians shouldn't have the monopoly on force. But the thing is, there's a small island called Papua New Guinea. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
No.
Hell
Have you
no.
ever heard of the Seminole Warriors of Papua New Guinea?
No.
The Seminole Warriors of Papua New Guinea are interesting in the sickest way possible. So here's what they do. They have boys do awful things to them, right?
I learned that's a different, I learned of them as the Sambia people, but I know about the
Yeah,
Sambia.
the Cum Warriors of Papua New Guinea, you know what they're about?
Yeah, they ingest semen.
Yeah, the boys do.
Well, they don't do it anymore. Christian missionaries
did, yeah. But I got to ask you, right?
Yeah.
So from a secular humanist perspective, and as a what was actually wrong with what they were doing?
Oh, that's so hard. Then you get into cultural relativism, and you're getting into all those questions.
What was actually wrong with what they were doing?
That was a tough one. Yeah, that's a good question. That is a really tough question. I'm going to pass on that. I would say, to me, I don't think children should be abused sexually prior to puberty against their will. And so I would oppose that practice. I don't think young boys should have their dicks sucked before they're, they should suck the dicks of older men and ingest their semen. I think that's problematic. Just like I think I think a lot of practices that people engage in.
Did Christians go ruin their culture?
I wouldn't say that.
I mean, how did they not? They completely destroyed all of that cultural infrastructure, didn't they?
So again, this is one of those examples of, I didn't know we would be discussing the Sambia, and I've written about the Sambia, and I would have prepared if I had known that's where you're going to go. But I mean, I could do the same thing to you. And
well, I'm just asking, like, from the secular humanist, what are they violating from the secular humanist position? What?
Bodily autonomy, the rights for children to not be sexually abused.
But that's all relative.
And?
So it's just all perspective based.
Welcome to reality.
Yeah, so you can't tell me that there's anything that they were actually doing there that was wrong.
Sure I can. The same way I can say we ought not to drive drunk. See, this is what I don't understand about how you live and how I live. Like, I think humans have the ability to talk to each other and say, I think this is wrong for this reason, and I'm going to listen to your reasoning, and I'm going to show you my reasoning, and I'm going to present evidence on what this does to children.
I understand, but would you have let them?
And you're saying that no, Phil, like you're not
king of the world. Would you have stopped the Seminole people?
Yeah.
What would you have sent in the army?
That's a hard question. I don't know. It's a good question. I might have. I don't know.
You're not sure if you'd send in the army to stop these guys from like molesting these children?
Look, right now, I think women are being forced to have their clitorises ripped out. Am I for sending in the army to stop it? Some days, yes.
So what would you do with the Seminole people? Just let them be, right?
I don't know, Andrew.
Don't know.
Yeah, I have to think about it.
And
I think there are ways to get them to stop doing it other than call in the army. But you keep providing me with like very limited options here.
Like maybe sending Christians.
Sure, or secular humanists.
Yeah, well, Christians seem to get the job done, right? So just saying. But anyway, I'm just curious about this, and the reason I'm curious about this is because when we get into this idea of your worldview with secular humanism, you're relativistic by nature. You have to be. There are no moral facts. Everything is stance dependent. Everything is an appearance of we just have to relate, right? And I guess if you want to say that a right is not an appeal to anything supernatural, it's like maybe just a law that we made up and it's only as useful as its enforcement. I was actually willing to grant this as being the case, but then you have to divert to force. And if you divert to force, then what you're really asking Christians for is for us to give up the idea of the monopoly on force to grant what rights we want. That's the whole problem. I guess that's the whole problem with the idea of secular humanism versus Christianity. It's a pretty simple critique. It's like, why should I give them up? You say, well, you shouldn't. And it's like, okay, then. Right?
I guess you've lost me. I don't even know what we're talking about. So,
Oh,
our
This
viewers
might
got a better.
this might be a good time to go into the Q&A. Do want to say, folks, a huge thank you to both of our guests. As this is our first time having Dr. Zuckerman. Do appreciate being here, Dr. Zuckerman. I know that this is, I would say Andrew is, if anyone's going to be a challenge, it's going to be Andrew. And so we appreciate you being with us and staying for this debate. We're going to jump into the questions. If you haven't yet,
I don't even understand though. Like, this debate wasn't even contentious. Like, it wasn't even super content. Like, I don't know. It didn't even seem very contentious to me. So
what's the question?
we're
oh,
going to
there's no
jump right.
question.
We're going to jump right into these. And if you haven't yet, folks, hit that like button. We do appreciate it. We also know that there have been some major connection issues. I am very sorry for that. That is something new. I have not seen it, and I don't know what caused it. So I am looking into that. Thank you for your question. And we are, of course, looking for sincere questions. Let's see. I don't understand this. Wilson Garcia said, Andrew, you wouldn't serve minorities born here?
I don't even know what he's talking about. I think he's referencing my intro where I said, look, what we're really talking about here is force. And then I gave examples of what secular humanists would use force for, like freedom of association, for instance. They could use force in that category, and relatively actually would, because they believe in the concept of universal rights.
You got it. This one coming
Whether
in
I would do
from
it personally or not has no bearing on that whatsoever.
This one from Dustin Buck says, Andrew Wilson, if it's in the Bible that thou shalt not steal, wouldn't that imply that property rights are a thing?
Well, I mean, it could, but we would have to get down to the nitty gritty about what we considered ownership and property to be. And then if you say that there's a right, I would say that perhaps we could phrase it as a duty not to steal more than a right to not be stolen from. But even if it was the case that I granted rights and gave that as my accounting for rights, my opposition thinks that rights are just bullshit, made up nonsense, which I think is fair. That's fair enough for him to say. But then it just reduces to the idea of authority and power, and him just wanting Christians to give it to secular humanists. That there's no way around that. If he postulates that rights ought be universal, therefore prescribed, he's prescribing force be universal.
This one from Rachel Wilson. Dr. Zuckerman, wouldn't it be the case that you had better let all of the prisoners out of jail when you go back to work because locking them up in there causes them suffering?
Suffering, yeah. That was my point, but
So, this is, I guess I'm a John Stuart Million or whatever. Like, I guess this is that question to me is sort of silly, but I'll do the best I can. I believe that humans collectively can agree on certain ways they want to live, and they can agree that when people violate those, there can be certain consequences. Those consequences can be nonviolent or violent. So we could say, well, if you drive drunk, we're going to remove your right to drive, and we're not going to imprison you, but we will take that right away. You're going to lose your driver's license. Or we could say, if you drive drunk, we're going to hit you with 40 lashes. I mean, we can decide what those consequences are. I'm reading a book right now on Lewis and Clark's expedition, and when people in their group did something wrong, they had a court martial and a trial, and all right, you get 50 lashes because you stole somebody's rations, and they would whip them. So we get to decide, and this is what humans have been doing for all of recorded history, making rules to live by and deciding what those consequences ought to be when they are violated. And there's no universal people
by force.
right or not. So
And then by force.
Well, do you want to take over, Andrew?
Well, I mean, I can participate in the super chat as well.
No, you got it. I was trying to develop a thought, but you can take over.
Want to give you a chance
Oh,
to finish
gee,
that thought, Dr. Zuckerman.
I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you during a debate? And it's terrible. I'm a terrible guy.
Well, let's give him a chance to finish the thought. We'll give you a chance, Dr. Zuckerman.
Good. I'm good. If that person who asked that question doesn't understand how these things work, I don't think anything I could say could make sense.
This one from Bubblegum
Well,
Gun
I
says,
can make it make sense. What's going on here is that there's the ideological divide is just over force. It's a prescription of rights. So Christians say, okay, well, we believe in these universals just like you do. I understand that these universals are going to reduce to enforcement. Since they're going to reduce to enforcement, who's best served by holding the access to force? The secular humanists say they are. That's really what it comes down to. And I say they're not, and we are.
this one from, I'll give you a chance to respond if you'd like, Dr. Zuckerman, because the question was originally addressed to you. Otherwise, I can go to the next one.
I'm good.
Bubblegum Gun said, Dr. Zuckerman, what if there's a culture that decides that, they do something like Nazi Germany, where they decide that they're doing their own thing and they say, this is like what we think is best for our society. What gives you the right to say that our society standard is better?
Yeah, welcome to reality. This is the world we live in. I don't see how a God helps us that. All you're doing is saying, well, my God says this. And then the next person's like, well, no, my God says that. Or someone says, I worship the same God, but I believe he said something different. Christians can't agree. Jews, Hindus, Muslims all disagree on fundamental questions of like, I know Christians who say God supports gay marriage. I know Christians who think they're the same God doesn't support gay marriage. I know Christians who believe that God wants there to be interracial marriage. And I know Christians who think so adding a supernatural God actually just makes it all the worse. So to me, we have to engage with each other. Different cultures, it's an empirical fact that different cultures have different norms and values. We have to figure out how we're going to live on this planet together. And sometimes we have to resort to force. Sometimes we resort to persuasion. I mean, sometimes, should you chop a child's foreskin off their penis? That's a violent act. To some cultures, it's noble and moral. And in other cultures, it's violent and immoral. So do we take up guns or do we try to discuss? My answer to that, I don't have a magic wand that can just tell a culture, you ought to believe this way. We're all in a fucking ship. We disagree on whether we should eat animals or not. We disagree on what to eat, who to sleep with, how to behave, all of these things. That's reality. So just saying, well, my God says this isn't going to help us. In fact, it usually makes it worse because as soon as you say you're on God's side, then there's nothing to appeal to and there's no common ground. It's just, well, if it's God, that's that. So I think your question is a deeply profound question. I don't have a great answer other than to say we have to figure it out. And no, there's no magical umpire. And even if there were a magical umpire saying do this, then we're just do we all hear the same command from that God? Doesn't seem that way. Mormons hear a different command than Buddhists, than Muslim. Even Muslims can't agree. Even Christians can't agree. So this notion that a God, first of all, you would need to prove to me that there is a God. And then second of all, you'd have to prove to me that you're getting God's correct message. And good luck proving that. It's impossible. So what I would say to you is, yes, there are cultures that do horrible things, in my opinion. I can't say in some grand way, but from my cultural vantage point and from my experience in life, I feel like they're doing horrible things. I would like them to stop. Is the best way force? Maybe. That's what the Civil War was about. We had to fucking take up arms, right? Maybe sometimes you can do things without violence, through persuasion. India was able to kick the British out through nonviolent means. I mean, so but what's so strange to me is that, Andrew has just never, it's like I have to somehow defend natural conclusions based on observation and suffering and heart rates and hunger, but he doesn't have to prove that there's a magical invisible deity. It's just sort of taken for granted. So unless he can provide some proof, he and I are in basically the same boat. The only difference is I'm not adding anything. So I'm not adding a God to my mix. I'm just saying, here we are. I don't know why. I
So
don't know how.
would it be fair then to reduce the answer to nothing to the question? So the question was, what would actually give you the right or ability to say that this other culture is inferior or worse than your own? Nothing, right?
Well, what would give me the right to say that? I
Or
wouldn't
no,
know if
the
it's a
right.
right. I would
Yeah,
just feel it. I would be like,
that's
that's
it.
wrong. It's causing
Yeah.
suffering.
Okay.
But what right do I have to
So,
anything?
well, I'm just asking because you're like, this is the question of the day. It sounded to me like you were basically saying nothing. There is nothing I can point to that would say that my civilization's better than this one or whatever. Or
Experience.
that's
I
it.
can measure suffering. I
Mhm.
can measure. I would appeal to my fellow human
Yeah,
beings.
the reason I don't need to make the appeal to demonstrate for you that there is a God is because ultimately, if you're a naturalist and a cultural relativist, you don't really have any grounds from which to say, even if I believe nothing but bullshit and lies and then wanted to govern based around that, there's not really any room for you to critique that.
Well, what do you appeal to when you say if there was a culture that was
Force.
practicing
I appeal
slavery,
to force and preference.
not God?
Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't need to with a
Well,
person.
God is just a method. I mean,
I-
force is just a method.
Yeah, I don't.
What are you appealing to?
Well, if I'm
Force
I'm
is
trying to
neutral.
explain if you want me to. So
No.
we're debates when we're debating, we're talking about worldviews.
What are you
If it's
appealing
my
to?
well, if you're
there's a
asking,
culture,
yeah, okay,
if there's a culture
all
that is
right,
doing
let me
something
know when you want me to
horrible,
answer, dude.
I will, because I don't
All
think
right.
you heard my question.
I heard your question. I'm trying to
If
answer
there's a
it.
culture that is doing something that I would consider immoral, maybe you wouldn't. So let's just say like gas chambering people that they don't like,
Yeah.
and they all do that, and they all think it's moral, and they think it's good to exterminate these people.
Mhm.
And you're saying I have nothing to appeal to in condemning that. What do you appeal to in condemning that?
Well, I don't understand. Why do I need to make a condemnation though? That's my whole point. Is like why
What are you
does there
appealing to if
why
you
does
say
there
they ought
ever
not do that?
yeah why but do you see how that's an incoherent question from your view?
No, I'm asking you. So you would have no opinion on that
Well, I'll
society?
explain it to you.
You would
Right.
have no opinion on that
If you're
society?
asking me from my view what I appeal to, I
That's
would
what I'm
say
asking.
yes, of course. I would say, of course, I appeal to God and Christian ethics, and I
Oh,
appeal to these things.
God, how is God suddenly reliable? I don't believe in your God. How can I don't think your God is
That's the point of the critique. I understand you don't believe in this God, and if I simply adopt your worldview, you now have no room for which to ever criticize
sure I
mine
do.
because it's
I
just
can say,
relative. It's
is
relative,
suffering,
though.
is it is there what's alleviating suffering? That's we can both measure that.
Yeah, but it's relative. Even if it was
Oh
the case, I
well,
granted to you that both
better
of
than
us don't
believing
like
in
suffering.
better than believing in an invisible magical
Well,
being.
why though? Why is that? Why is believing in one better than
Because I
or
can prove when
worse?
people are suffering. You can't prove there's a
Yeah,
God.
but why is it? There is no worse or better from your
Then
view.
put
You
your
have a
cigarette in your
naturalist
eye. Then
view.
put your cigarette in your
Yeah,
eye.
but that's not. That's. Do you understand that you're
No, do
mixing
you
up once
understand?
again the idea of
Put your
physical
cigarette
pain
in
and
your eye,
normative
Andrew.
claims?
If
Would it be
there's
immoral if I did?
if
Would it be
suffering,
immoral if I did?
I
Would it be
didn't say
immoral
that.
if I put my
I
exactly?
didn't
So what are
say
you
that.
talking about, dude?
I
What are you
never,
talking about? It's just
Andrew,
incoherent babble.
you put the word moral or immoral. I never used that language. I said
Because we're
we
talking about
can.
when we're talking about what we appeal to, we're talking about what
Listen
we
to
appeal
my
to for
word.
normative claims.
Shut your mouth and listen to my
Shut
word.
your fucking mouth, Baldy. Yeah, you started it. Don't talk shit if you're not willing to have
All
shit
right.
talked.
Let's hear
Okay.
from Dr. Zuckerman. You were trying to explain something. Go ahead, Dr. Zuckerman.
Thank you. Okay. So, what I was trying to say is I can prove if people are suffering. That's empirically observable, right? Just like I can prove to you that Andrew's lungs are in much worse shape than mine.
Prove it.
We can, yeah, we can do a lung scan.
So you can't prove it?
We can do a lung scan.
So you can't prove it then.
Well, we humans, there's technology
I want to
that could
give
look at your lung, and there's technologies that could look at my lungs. And since I don't smoke cigarettes and you do,
Mhm.
I'm pretty clear, confident that there's empirical, objective ways to measure the health of your lungs versus my
Yeah, but
lungs.
that's a different claim though.
Right. So suffering, if a cult, I keep saying to you, I can measure when people are hungry. And you're like, no, you can't. I can measure when people are cold. I can measure when people are suffering. That's what I appeal to. That's not nothing. That's not, that's more, if maybe I can't prove it, but I can certainly gather more evidence whether people are hungry or not by their caloric intake and the state of their bones than you can prove that there's a God. So I don't think those are equal claims. Like,
But
well,
why
I'm
does,
appealing,
but why is,
and then you say, why is suffering
I'm
a
asking,
problem?
like, if it was the case that I completely believed in something which is totally made up like you do, why is that even problematic?
What's the
Why
suffering
would
is
there
made
need
up?
to be a demonstration of
Suffering
any
is
of
made up.
this?
Suffering is made
What
up.
the universalized way in which you're using it is, yes. Suffering's not universal.
I
You
agree.
can't even make universal claims like that, dude. Like when you say is suffering made up, it's like if you're saying that universally one type of suffering everyone suffers, yeah, that's made up.
I didn't say that.
Exactly. So then
I
don't
didn't
make the
say
universal claim. When you say
I
suffering made
never
up,
made a
yes,
universal
it is.
claim.
Yes, it is. The things you consider suffering to be, you fucking made it up. Your whole worldview is a construction of made up bullshit. So if it's
Hunger
the
is made up.
case, if
Hunger
it's
is
the
made
case
up.
that when does a person, can you give me the exact measurement of when a person becomes hungry?
That's reducto ad absurdum. You're telling me people prefer to be hungry than not?
I didn't say that. I asked you a
You
specific
just said
question.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think
Exactly. That's my whole point, right? It's like
no,
when
no,
you
no,
say a person feels hunger, therefore that's bad.
no.
It's only bad in the sense that you
Andrew,
don't
that's
like
like
it. That's it. It's just that's why it's bad. It's bad because it's bad, right? It's bad because it's
unpleasant,
bad.
just like
And that's bad because
what
that's
else could it
bad.
be?
Exactly. It's bad. It's so you're falling into a tautology. It's just bad
What's
because
the
it's bad
option?
because it's bad
What's
because
the
it's
option?
bad
Other
because it's
option?
bad. Well, you could have some kind of
No,
grounding. You could start
go
with
for it.
that. You could look for
Go for it.
anything like this, but I got nothing. I just get a tautological bad, bad,
Really?
bad, bad, bad. It's like, okay,
So
fine.
you're
You
saying
could say that,
so
but from my view, but if
Andrew,
you critique it from my view, then it's
smoker,
just incoherent nonsense. Why would I ever
smoker.
need to make a demonstration of my view for somebody who just makes the claim that we make it all up? It's like, fine, then I made up God. You're going to do what I say. Fuck off. What are
I'll
you
give
going
you a
to do?
chance to
Like,
respond, Phil, and then
you
we
know
got
what
to
I
go to the
mean?
next question.
That's all right.
This
But
one,
do you understand the point there?
No, I don't.
No,
I
you
think
don't.
I think you don't want to admit that suffering exists.
I've already told you that the ideas of suffering exist.
Then
Yes.
that's not a tautology
No. But why is suffering bad?
because it's unpleasant.
And why is things that are unpleasant bad?
Put your cigarette in your eye and you'll find
That
out.
answer my question. Why is it
It
bad?
feels bad. It hurts. It's
So
unpleasant.
it's bad because it's bad. That's a tautology.
No, it causes damage to your eye and you can't see. How is you're saying
What if it just caused a lot of pain but didn't damage the eye? That would still be bad because it's bad because it's bad. It always is tautological.
so there's
You're
no
always just
difference
pointing
to
to the
you?
thing.
So there's no difference to you between always being hungry and never being hungry? Those are the same things?
No, they're not the
Why is
same
it bad
things.
to
You don't
be
even understand what I'm talking about.
okay? I gotta go, James, but yeah, thanks for yeah, I always regret doing these, and I always say I'll never do them again because I don't think they make the world a better place. And
I think it made the world a better place.
I think this time I really decided I'm done with this. It's not my forte. So Andrew, you keep making a living, barking at people and not finding common ground. I'm gonna go.
You barked at me
my-
first, dude, just so you
I'm
know.
gonna take care of my wife, and you can continue with your mic and your angry white dude in the back. And
Yeah, I'll also take care of my wife.
why?
Well, I mean, because
It's a
I want to.
tautology. It's a
'Cause I want
tautology.
to, because it's fun.
Why do you want to?
Well, who cares? It's fine, right?
No, it's a
It's not.
tautology. It's a
What's
according to you,
tautological about me taking care of my wife? How's that a
What's-
tautology?
I said to you, suffering is bad. You're
Why
like,
is that?
"That's
How's that a tautology? Like,
It's not.
yeah, exactly. What are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. That's not a tautology. Yeah, that's great. I'll take care of my wife too. I'm glad that we've established this. But thing is like
you'll
this
both
wasn't
take
even
care
that.
of your wives.
This wasn't even that contentious of a debate.
But
And
I'll
the
take care
idea
of my
that, like,
wife. I'll take care of my
you-
wife because I have compassion for her. Andrew will take care of her because the supernatural being commands it.
Why is one better than the other?
You tell me.
Like, if you want to just take care of her because, I don't know, you want to like dunk her on the fucking head and drag her into a cave, like, why would that even be a problem from
It
your
would cause
view?
suffering, Andrew. It would cause suffering.
Yeah, but isn't it, what if you evolutionarily were like
This is
designed
what I
to
don't.
not
This is
care
why.
about suffering?
This is why every time I bring it up, you're like, "Who cares if that happens? Who cares if that happens?" And I care. I guess you don't.
Yeah, right. But do you understand the criticism there or no?
No,
No? So
no. I live in
like-
a world where people can
Yeah.
get hurt and
Yeah.
suffer. I guess you don't live in that
Yeah,
world.
people can get hurt and they can suffer, but you haven't demonstrated why we should appeal to that as some normative authority from which we live our lives. Really?
You want to live in a world? Oh, I guess my experience has taught me that it's
Because of your
better to live in
experience.
it.
Oh, my experience taught me the opposite, that sometimes causing suffering mitigates suffering. So therefore, we should cause more suffering to mitigate more suffering.
That's yeah.
It's just
Okay.
silly.
So, all right. Are we done, James?
Well, there are more questions, but if you have to go, it's not a problem.
But-
We've had you here for
Yeah.
2 hours. If you
Andrew can
if,
answer that.
It wasn't even that contentious. I don't even know what you're upset about. Like, I've been in some brutal
this
debates, and this one was
question,
pretty
Sure, I'm sure you
moderate.
do this for a living. I don't do this for a living, so maybe I got to toughen up. But to me, I really wanted to have, I really wanted to understand what you had to say, and I felt like what you wanted to do was trap me somehow in wordplay, and you wanted to have a sort of chess game of logic, and if I could say this, then you'd know you'd got me there. And I really didn't come into this trying to get you at all. I wanted to
It's
understand.
not a gotcha. I'm just critiquing the view, dude. Using
Well,
logic.
what
That's
you could
it.
have done, what you could have done is allowed me to speak. I mean, I guess what you're saying is I appreciate that you did all this research and then you prepared your comments based on things I've said to other people. And I get that. That makes sense. It's not how I approach it, but I understand that that's how the game works. So,
Well, it's not even a game. I just want to make sure that I understand wouldn't it be like way more irrational and silly for me to walk in here without having taken any time at all to really try to understand your viewpoint, why it is that you have it, where it is that you're coming from, so I can have the best faith discussion with you instead of endlessly an exploration. And it's like most of the questions you asked me, I was very quick. Yes, no, I think this. Yes, sure. No, yes.
okay.
That was not what I got in return. How was I the bad faith one? By the way, you started with the insults, not me.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right. I got to go. Thanks so much.
we'll let you
All right,
go.
have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
day.
We have some questions. We'll look to see if there are any for Andrew, because obviously Dr. Zuckerman had to leave. But we do appreciate both of our guests, as the guests are what make modern day debate fun and make it exist at all. So all credit to the speakers for modern day debate. Farrier one was going to ask Dr. Zuckerman if he had ever heard of the transcendental argument for God's existence and if he's ever addressed it. And sorry we didn't get to ask that. And Kennedy Carter asked for Andrew. They say, will Andrew concede that through force doctrine, if secular humanism and democratic socialism becomes the dominant culture and Christianity diminishes, that's right morally?
No.
This one from
How would
Nicholas.
how would that diminish my view? That wouldn't diminish my view. My worldview, the idea of all of the oughts and all the virtues that comes from Christian ethics. The idea of the critique here is just, why should Christians give up power to secular humanists? Why? Why should we do that? And they never have an answer. I can always reduce their idea of rights down to force. It's very simple to do, and I did it. He'd never thought about it before, but he had to concede that, yeah, we're really talking about force. And he couldn't make an argument for why it is we needed to cede the monopoly of that force to him for his idea of what rights are. They just can't fucking do it. And he never.
This one from
And
Nicholas
if you're always
Zoen.
just making like, go ahead.
And
Sorry.
by the way, folks, if you haven't seen it, to the right of me, my anatomical left, you can see DebateCon 8 is happening July 25th and July 26th. It's linked in the description box. It's also pinned at the top of the chat. Check it out. You have to make this one. We have a huge card scheduled, and also there are a couple of debates that are still scheduled, or there's one on the politics day, there's two on the religion debates day that are almost booked, and they're going to be huge. We are making sure this conference is bigger and better than any in the past. So stay tuned for announcements on when those other big debates are booked. But as of now, Rachel Wilson will be taking on Not So Erudite on feminism. And then Andrew Wilson will be taking on Lonerbox on the political debates day. That's on whether or not Trump is a fascist. And then on the Saturday religion debates day, headlining again, Andrew Wilson, and he'll be taking on Jake Brancatella on whether or not Islam or Christianity is better for society. You don't want to miss it. Check out that DebateCon 8 link right now. This question from Nicholas Zoen says, for Andrew, it sounds like you're saying anything intangible is supernatural. Is the Earth's gravity supernatural, or even just a thought in a person's mind? Is that supernatural?
No, you would get. I don't think so. I think that both of those things would have material explanations for them.
You got it. And this one from Zombie, let's see, says, suffering is subjective. If people fast on purpose, is that suffering? It's all subjective. It's interesting on fasting. Let's see. Want to see if we've got any others. Let's see. We had one for Dr. Zuckerman from Rachel. Won't be able to read that because he's not here. Marilyn, this is technically for both of you. Says, y'all will do anything but admit that you are God because of God. Zero accountability. We can just skip
What?
that one.
What?
Nathan
What did he
Cummins.
say?
That's just Maryland. I don't know what's going on. Don't worry about that one. Nathan Cummins says, "Hey, let's see." Nathan Cummins says, "Hey, it's Andrew's favorite fan, the Tourette's guy. My God, does Andrew look handsome today? Thinks you look handsome, Andrew."
True. But that was his Tourette's talking.
But want to say thank you to our guests. They make modern day debate. So they are both linked in the description box. That includes that the podcast, as all of our episodes end up on the Modern Day Debate podcast, available on fine podcast apps everywhere, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We're going to let Andrew go. But thank you for coming out, Andrew. And thank you for Dr. Zuckerman. It was a spirited debate. It was high intensity, and we do appreciate both of our guests.
All right. You guys have a great day.
Have a good night. And I'll be back in a moment, folks, with updates on upcoming debates right now. So thank you guys for tuning in. That was by the way, thanks for being patient with all of the connection issues. Oh my gosh. That's the worst I've ever experienced in terms of the connection. The stream cut off twice. So you guys are awesome for sticking around during that. So, but as I had mentioned, DebateCon 8, this will be featuring Andrew Wilson, Rachel Wilson, Lonerbox, Destiny. Let me just sync this a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Oh, that's much better. Want to say thank you guys for coming out. You can see on screen right now, this poster is DebateCon 8, and it is going to be huge. That is pinned at the top of the old live chat. And then want to remind you folks, we don't want you to copy and paste in the live chat. So H1N1, I see you copy and pasting over and over. It's totally cool if you want to talk smack to me. I don't care. But don't do it in copy and paste because it just gets, people don't like copy and paste. It's just redundant. But check out DebateCon 8. That is linked at the top. And now I'm going to show you. Let me show you because you're like, hey, what is the schedule? Like, show me, because you maybe haven't, if you haven't clicked on the tickets page yet, what are you waiting for? It's right there. I'm going to look it up right now, and I'm going to share my screen so you can see the full schedule. We have, like I said, booked. We're very excited about it. DebateCon 8 modern day debate. What the? Hold on a second. It's taking me a little bit of time to find this, but I'm going to find it right here. Bear with me. If you haven't yet, hit that like button. We do appreciate all of your support. And thanks for your kind words in chat. Morris182, thanks for being here. Voshmit, thanks for coming by. And MMA Fighter Rating says, rest in peace, Joe Rogan. That's funny. You guys, it's an old meme to say someone's dead. But we hope that Joe is doing well. He seems like a healthy guy. I have a feeling Joe is probably going to live to be pretty old. But let's pull up DebateCon. And bear with me. Someone in live chat said, tickets are $149. That's hilarious. I know, it's hilarious that it's that cheap because this conference is going to be huge. You are right. It is crazy. How can we do $149 for 2 days? Because I'm going to pull this schedule up right now and you're going to see for yourselves. Tickets starting at $149. we have purposely made it so that the general admission ticket is appreciably more affordable. The reason being is that we realized we're like, our attendance, we were thinking we can do this better. So last time, our general admission ticket was $239. And a lot of people are like, what? Why would you charge that? It costs a lot to put this on. So flying the speakers in, and then the speakers' time is valuable as well. So some of the speakers get an honorarium. Putting the speakers up in a hotel, because we can't just have them sleep in a car or something, it is a very expensive project, but it is worth it. It is that good of a product, and I'm going to show you right now. So share screen. Let me do the old browser share. And I've got to tell you, we're excited that Destiny will be returning, as it has been a long time since Destiny has been at DebateCon. So here we go. We are purposely keeping, like I said, the general admission ticket is appreciably cheaper than last time because we want to make it as affordable as possible. So, as you can see, Saturday, the Religion Debates Day, Debate 1, Inspiring Philosophy versus Jake Brancatella, the Islamic Dilemma on Trial. Then 12 p.m., there will be the Ultra and Super VIP ticket lunch social. So this is not just seeing your favorite debaters debate. It is also getting to actually spend time with them. So you can say hello to them. I'm going to pull this up really quick so you can see me still, because I was hoping that would show and it's not. So that way you can potentially meet your favorite debaters as well as, holy smokes, you have so many. Let me just, got a lot of windows open. So that way you can potentially meet your favorite debaters as well. So you can see on screen, very excited about this. That'll work. Okay. Thanks for your patience. Here we go. As you can see right now, there is 1:15 p.m. special feature debate. We are planning on a juggernaut debate that is no joke, that it rivals the main event. Like, that's what we're going for. It's going to be big. But 3:30 p.m., another special feature debate. These are actually, I've got to go pretty quick because I have to call the debaters. So we're supposed to talk tonight about like arranging this because it is almost booked. But then the main event, Andrew Wilson versus Jake Brancatella. And then, oh yeah, the 5:30 p.m. It's Ultra VIP and All Access VIP dinner with speakers. So check out those tickets as well. We are, like I said, making this as affordable as possible so that the general admission is literally almost $100 cheaper compared to last time. So that'd be $75 a day. Amazing, because as you can see, the days are packed with action. On the second day, as you can see, debate 1, special feature debate to be announced soon. That is going to have a heavyweight. In other words, someone who is very big. I can't say who yet. But then 12 p.m., the again Ultra and Super VIP ticket lunch social. So that's where the debaters will be hanging out as well. So you can actually meet the debaters, not just see them debate. And that's like the reason people come out. It's the debaters, is that not just seeing them debate, but potentially meet them. We have some of the ticket tiers have photo ops where you can meet them and get a photo with them. And it's a professional photo. This isn't like me with my phone. We actually have a professional photographer, Sean Samanko. He will be there using, and this is like his high quality photography camera. It's going to be beautiful. Next up, as it says, 1:15 p.m., Rachel Wilson will be taking on Not So Erudite on feminism. That's going to be amazing. And then 3:30 p.m., Destiny, Stephen Bennell versus special guest. Keep an eye out for announcements, as we are excited to host those debates, as they're going to be coming up very soon. We're very excited to announce those. And then the Ultra VIP and All Access dinner with speakers. And then also, of course, the 7 p.m. main event debate, Andrew Wilson versus Loner Box. So that is going to be huge. But check out those tickets. We do expect that Andrew Wilson's, so the speakers for the dinner, their tables will usually sell out. Not all of them, but some of them. So, for example, last time, Andrew Wilson's dinner table, we can only put 10 people at the table with him. Otherwise, it's just not very intimate anymore. 10 is by far, it's like we can't go over 10. And so, I highly encourage you check out those tickets now because we do expect for those to sell out again. And especially being that this one is going to be in Dallas instead of Nashville. Nashville's an awesome place, but Dallas is a much bigger metro. So Dallas and Fort Worth together, if I remember right, that whole metro, like that whole area is like 9 million people if you include all the suburbs that surround Dallas and Fort Worth. So we definitely do expect that dinner tables are going to sell out. So check those out. And if you haven't yet, I've got to tell you, hit the like button. We do appreciate your support. We're at 490 likes. We are almost at 500, which is the exact amount of girlfriends that Joaquina Finoline 8893 had by the time that he turned 25. Pretty crazy. But yes, and yeah, in the live chat, we actually didn't have any moderators, I don't think. I don't think Max was here tonight. So it is kind of like the Wild West in the live chat. All we ask is if you just stay within YouTube terms of service. I mean, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it is pretty much the Wild West. So we want you to feel like you can say what you want. We don't want you to feel like you're walking on eggshells. So even if you do, like I said, I can't remember where he was in chat criticizing me. That's okay. You know, it's we want you to feel like you have that liberty where you can say what you want and you don't have to worry about someone that's going to try to like block you or whatever. So yeah, I do sometimes see folks in chat get confused. They go, "Why am I blocked? Why am I not showing?" Well, if you use in your chats, the YouTube algorithm will actually block certain words. Some words, of course, are just too naughty. You know, YouTube will, the algorithm will catch it and it won't show your chat. But also, it's if you use like exact real names, like if you use like Rob, you know, Rob Johnson, YouTube algorithm will probably make it so that your chat won't show. It oftentimes, for some reason, it's weird about real names. So thank you guys for all of your support. And yeah, we do, of course, H1N1 says there's crazy anti-Semitism in the chat. We don't want anti-Semitism. You know, we don't want any sort of, you know, the Christians are blank, you know, the Jays are blank. We don't want you to throw a group under the bus. I think that is against YouTube terms of service. So keep it within reason. But let's see here. H1N1 says, can you make me a moderator? That's actually like, if you really want to do it, there is a process where we actually, it's kind of like like the guys, the moderators, they're not here tonight. It was a weird night that we didn't have them here. We do have like a process. You'd have to check out the Modern Day Debate Discord, which, by the way, the Modern Day Debate Discord is growing. It just hit 16,000 members. So that's exciting. Check that out. I just had but I am very big on the old phrase sticks and stones. I had a nasty email today. It was so like, which, by the way, as the moderator, I don't understand how I often like, I wouldn't say often, it's not super often, but once in a while I get like a really just, it's usually, it was someone, they accused me of blocking them, which I don't even hang out in the Discord, and just nasty things. But I just like the old phrase sticks and stones, let it roll off your back. If someone in chat, you know, is hard on you, just like, I am very big on the old stoicism philosophy of, well, you know, it only bothers you if you let it bother you. So if someone in chat calls you, you know, a fat boy or something, you know, don't let it bother you. Good to see you. Local Machine, thanks for coming by. It says, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that. And Daniel J, thanks for your kind words. Says 16,000 is huge for Discord. It is, and it's all because of Shane. Shane and Hannah have done a fantastic job of building the Modern Day Debate Discord. Like I said earlier, I'm never even in it. I'm just plugging it because I'm like, hey, Shane and Hannah, thank you so much. Like, I should have been plugging this a long time ago. So thank you for them. And that's a great way to get debate experience if you want. And let me think of anything else. I'm going to plug this one, the Modern Day Debate TikTok. Amazing. This is in the live chat. I'm going to pin that. If you are on TikTok, pinned at the top of the Modern Day Debate live chat and also in the description box is our TikTok. You can find clips in there. And then Morris 8182 says, why don't we see you debate? I think you teased it once in the past. There is under a members only, the members, if you become a member at the debater level, you can find it there. There's like one or two debates, and then there might be one that is like not even members only. There are like old debates that I've done. One of them though was even like a university debate. But Local Machine says, "Did you all hit that like button? Please do hit that like button." And I hope you guys are doing well. The weather is nice here. It's finally cooling off. The last week was like insanely hot. Uh, in terms of our Facebook page. Oh wait, well before I plug the Facebook page. Upcoming in the Los Angeles area. 5-on-5. Is Christianity true? This is going to be a discussion between 5 Christians and 5 non-Christians. So that could be atheist, could be Muslim, could be you name it. And we highly encourage you check that out. It is going to be huge. It's going to be filmed in Los Angeles. It's going to be in person. I'm going to be there. My boy Sean Simanko, my tech guy, is going to be there. And we are going to film this discussion, 5 Christians versus 5 non-Christians, and that link for applying if you were in the Los Angeles area, or maybe you're like, hey, I'm not in Los Angeles, but I'm in Las Vegas. It's a 4-hour drive. Come on out. It's going to be great. You should participate. We don't have it's not going to be an audience. We're not going to have an audience. If you want to participate and be in the debate, that link is pinned at the top of the chat right now. It's also in the old, what's the word I'm looking for? Description box. It's been a long day. I have to be honest, today's debate, I'm going to be vulnerable with you guys. It was a stressful debate because the connection by itself was so stressful. Because there are a couple points where I'm not joking. It was like a whole minute that just the internet just stopped. I don't know how Andrew and Dr. Zuckerman kept talking in the Zoom call because I'm the host for the Zoom call. I don't understand what happened. Where basically the Zoom chat still just somehow that was a blessing. It just continued. My guess is maybe Zoom recognizes when the host, namely me, doesn't have internet connection. It shifts who the host is, and that way, at least the other 2 people can keep going. So that's good because I was thinking oh, I'm gonna have to email them a new link to get in on Zoom. I was just stressed. Thank you for our Modern Day Debate VIP tier members on Patreon, Oliver Catwell and Andrew Barry. And also, yes, the Facebook page. Did want to give this, let's see here. Pinning that at the top of the chat, check out the Modern Day Debate Facebook page. That is where you can find clips of debaters from Modern Day Debate. But yes, indeed, check out DebateCon 8. It's going to be huge. We're very excited about it. Check out that tickets link right now. Consider it. Definitely consider it when you are planning your summer plans. So if you were like, oh, I was going to go take a vacation on that weekend, don't, because you have DebateCon on that weekend and it's going to be amazing. But thank you guys for your support. I will let you go. I'm going to rest. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. We'll see you at the next debate, which is that is this Saturday. Kent Hovind returns. That is going to be against Dr. Greg, Creation Evolution. And then this Thursday, there might be a debate with a certain Rachel Wilson. That's not for sure yet. So it's possible, but I've got to get confirmation on that. So thank you guys for your support. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable, and we will see you at the next debate.